as a pro-Palestinian voice. He had donated money. So in my head, who he's married to, how he conducts himself, who he decides to target and focus on, it becomes a lot more clearer that while he's not completely pro genocide, at least publicly speaking, I would hope he's not, in private as well. It's definitely more of an appearance of, well, I love Israel. I am connected to Israel in many ways, and I don't want Israel to take full accountability. I don't want apartheid to necessarily end. I don't really trust Palestinians. He seems to have an anti-Arab kind of sentiment, generally speaking. So, yeah, liberal Zionist feels fitting the more I learn about him. Yeah.
So what do you guys think of that perspective? Do you think that Ethan does have some kind of I'm going to call it aversion, but he does seem to at least differentiate between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Like, what's kind of your perspective on that aspect of Ethan Klein's coverage?
I mean, he certainly said as much. I mean, in like old podcasts where he said like, was it like Arabs are inherently more violent or something like that when he was talking to Gila, and I was just like, holy shit, that's a. But I mean, he said it so earnestly. It was almost like hearing like an old segregationist talking about like why we have to keep them separate, like and not getting it, like not understanding how crazy it sounds.
Do you think
Uh,
he would? Oh, I'm sorry. You keep going.
no, it was just like I almost feel bad saying it. Like I don't think he's like some evil man. I just don't think he gets it. But I do think that he has like an inherent bias, and I think he's totally blind to it. Like I don't think he is insidiously Ben Shapiro levels of evil where he is knowingly doing bad things. I think he is like totally blind
Well,
to.
he's very dedicated. There's a lot of investment, and most of that investment is with his wife, and he has kids with his wife, and so that's a lot to weigh on, especially.
What's the specific problem you have with his wife?
Um, she seems to be. She was a IDF
All,
soldier.
all Israelis are, for the most part.
Yeah,
The
which
problem with that a little bit though
An
is that
Israeli.
she volunteered to go on a thing, which she
Uh,
didn't have to because she was doing office work.
yeah.
Is that the plot? But I mean, if we're thinking realistically, the way she told that story, I don't think she saw it as kidnapping an innocent Palestinian. I think it's more of like a uneducated youth thrusted into a bad environment. You know, I don't think she's an evil terrorist for being in the IDF and like someone in her command like want to go on a mission, and she's like, "Yeah, sure."
not
I
to
don't
mention,
think that immediately makes her an evil IDF person. I still think you can have the narrative that she just got mandatory conscripted.
She seemed pretty. She described it as like kind of an exciting
Exciting because it was a war. Because
opportunity.
she's used to being behind the desk. It's exciting if you're a
Yeah,
desk
but it's just
worker
like I don't know
going
that.
out into war. You're not thinking of it like, oh, I'm kidnapping an innocent Palestinian, which I'm not. I mean, that could have been what happened, but I'm not sure if that's even what happened.
do you know any
Yeah,
Marine?
kind of the problem though is it's kind of a little bit too normalized. So the perspective for a lot of Israelis is they've been kind of like put through the thought process of kind of like normalizing an idea of dehumanizing Palestinians to where they don't really think much of their behavior besides the factor of, well, it's a
Well,
terrorist
I don't
city, so
expect
like
them
our
to know
conduct is
that.
okay.
They're like an Israeli citizen born over there, like kind of drafted into that media environment.
Yeah, I
It'd be
know.
like literally the same if you were a desk jockey over here, like in Afghanistan or something, and they're like, or like one of the fucked up wars we shouldn't have been involved in. They're like, hey, you want to go on a mission? And then the desk guy, like that happens in movies all the time. They're not evil participating. It's an exciting thing. And I know it's normalized, but I don't like that's a very human thing. I don't think it like makes someone inherently evil or it means they support because they've gone on record saying they don't support the IDF or any of the evil actions.
And
It's just
there is
one thing that you can take out of context and drag like it's gum to make them seem like an evil person.
I think it's
I don't
hard
really
to
trust this person's judgment of what is good or what is bad or anything like that either. Like this person's describing Yoav Galant as like a good guy,
Which
when
they
Yoav
immediately
Gallant's talking
backtracked
about
and
like
apologized
forcefully,
for
like,
once they learned more about his character. Hila does
I
not stand by that
mean,
opinion.
I think
She
Hilo knows
backtracked on
more
it
than
immediately
you would think.
upon
I'm
learning more
pretty sure
about his
Hilo's
character.
well informed on Israeli media.
I honestly don't think
Or
she is, because the reason she said that is because it was literally in the news, in the papers that day, the headline that he was going for a peace. She said it as a way of saying we want peace. You see, we want ceasefire, which
Okay,
is
I
like
think we're
honestly
getting
a pretty normal perspective for a majority of leftists in America.
all right. I think
Is
we're
a
getting a little
ceasefire.
bit sidetracked. Let's just go back to people introducing themselves. Sid, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you want to introduce yourself, like where you stand in all of this, kind of what's your opinion on things? And then one thing that we should also talk about is like what your reaction was to the content nuke. So maybe just we'll go through introducing ourselves and then we'll try to get into some topics.
I like that. Sorry, yeah, it's format.
You're good.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sid. I started really more as a Hasan fan and became affiliated with the whole H3 universe through Leftovers. And then was bummed when Leftovers ended. Was really bummed just with the tone change that happened after October 7th and with the way I saw it all dealt with from top to bottom. I think Hasan and Ethan are both humans, and they're probably both decent human beings. I think Ethan said some fucked up stuff and was an edgy comedian. I don't know if you guys are old or not, but I'm a little bit old. And
We're all a little bit old.
people used to say really fucked up shit 10 and 15 years ago, then you'll remember. And I think the amount of fighting that is happening is silly because really there's like serious issues and we should be unified. I think a lot of the things Hasan has done, people he's platformed, videos he's played, is reprehensible. Whether or not that damage manifests into anything meaningful, I don't really know. I don't have a say on that. Whether it outweighs the good things that he does, I don't really know. And I think the same for Ethan, really. His place is in politics, but I think he's and his wife had their entire life totally upset, and almost everything that he's worked for has been, if not permanently damaged, then severely damaged. And I think it mostly stems from the fact that his wife's an Israeli and he's an Israeli, and they believe Israel should exist. And I think that's kind of a wild take. So that's about that.
Okay, thank you. Monique, do you want to introduce yourself?
sure. I'm old too, so I don't know
Hell yeah.
who I watched first. To be honest, I'm kind of like a YouTube. It's just like brain rot, right? So like Alex Jones when he had like hair, he was like
Yes.
yell, So I don't know. I liked them both, and I would say I'm still a fan of Hassan. I feel like um I keep waiting for Ethan to just like come back to a sense of normalcy. I just don't feel like that's where he's at right now. But I don't think this is probably like the most off that I feel like I've seen him. He gets his obsessive things, but usually it's like funny or he plays into it well, and this is just like this is not that. obviously. But yeah, Hasan is not necessarily like, I am a fan of Hasan, but I am not like a what is it? I'm not an idiot. I'm a leftist, but I have like my own values and my own sense of like uh what I think is right and wrong, and I don't think he's absolutely right, but I'm so old that I just don't care in that way. So I know there are some people like in those Reddits or like on Twitter, and they're just like fighting the good fight and like to the death. They're in it. Maybe they are coordinating. Maybe they are like how Ethan talks about like snark and stuff. Maybe maybe they are in the walls. Like there are people like that, I'm sure. But I just could never find that energy to do that. And I don't think either of them are at like that level, especially with like honestly the state of the world. It's just like their crimes are not that intense.
Yeah. Swoot, do you want to say where you're at in all of this
Um,
drama?
I'll say a bit. I'm more of I come more from like the drama side and the political. I mean, I'm very politically inclined, but when it comes to like foreign affairs, I kind of check out. So I really like. I'm not the most educated on that front, but I've been terminally online since like middle school, and I followed like all their careers. I've followed Twitch Poll since it started, so I'm like just super aware of like how they've all handled themselves. And I will say I'm probably the odd man out here because I just hate Hasan. I do. I despise him. I'll be straight. I just despise Hasan Piker as an individual.
Okay.
Just because of the way he like handles criticism. But
I do
and
hate
it's
that
also
part.
just because I'm jealous of him. He's sexy.
All right. Well, at least you're honest. Diego,
But
do you want to give it a go?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a leftist from the third world. Um, I because of Hassan, actually, I participated in protest against the American state, and I'm obviously going to have harsher opinions than I think anyone on the panel.
yeah,
I work
I
with
can see
a
that.
trade union uh, that organizes these things, and actually I'm going to attend a protest tomorrow.
Okay, good.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's super awesome.
And Emery, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm James Emery. Emery for short, that's fine. I do YouTube streams on whatever I'm interested. Mostly a bunch of drama stuff. I've been on a binge on all Destiny's sex scandal bullshit that he's been doing. Sex pest behavior is catching up to him. But yeah, generally I just comment on
God bless.
drama stuff, politics every once in a while if it's connected. I want to learn more about politics. I want to be more informed on stuff like that, so I can be able to at least have a better idea of what I'm talking about.
You just like being depressed, huh? You
Um,
just, you just like
That's
that's
a
a
lot of
you're
mental
like I
negativity.
want
state,
to
you
learn
know.
about destiny, and then I also want to learn about what's going on in the world.
I'm goon maxing.
Well, I know about what's going on in the world. You know.
Okay, so I want to just start off with like a pretty broad topic of conversation. And if you guys come up with any topics that you think would be interesting, you can just shout it out. But I think something that is interesting is, do we think that like both Hasan and Ethan are a net positive on the internet? Or are we thinking that like their content should change fundamentally for them to have a positive influence?
Who wants to go first?
I honestly could care less about if their content's good for the internet. I feel like content should be like I don't care in that regard.
I will say, I think for now, I'm in a red state. I'm in Ohio. It's a cesspool. It's a shithole.
I feel you
Uh,
there.
so just a prominent leftist voice. That's why I guess I'm so forgiving, maybe, even with both of them, that I think Hasan a little more so, with even with Ethan prior to October 7th. As he's gotten further into it, especially post inauguration, when he was saying things like like name a street after like Hasan, and like kind of almost celebrating like the ethnic cleansing. Like, absolutely not. Those people are like those are actually people. It's not internet drama. Uh I've spent my news feed, when I scroll on Twitter, looking at like um babies, children, um not to be depressing, but I mean, it is what it is. And then I just would see him online crying about, um, you know, anti-Semitism from Hassan, and there's like literal bombs going off, and it's just him. I don't think is a net positive right now, because there's not a lot of dissenting voices to what's going on, and it's kind of needed, especially in America, like right now.
Does anyone disagree with that Ethan Klein's coverage of Gaza has been less than stellar, I would say?
Well, what does his coverage of Gaza necessarily mean? Because outside of like the first few leftovers before they split, he never really covered Gaza outside of like talking about it within the context of defending himself from the online not harassment at the time, because it was kind of low level back then,
I
but
can
the
elaborate a little
online
bit.
criticism.
Yeah, maybe
I was
Monique, you want
able
to elaborate?
to like live in the main subreddit for a little bit, and I wasn't like a shitter that would like troll or anything. I was a normal human being. I managed myself all right. In fact, I got banned by telling someone else to like not brigade,
Yeah.
actually, which is crazy. But I noticed that the moderators within the subreddit started changing how they moderated, and then the people
The
that would
H3
come into,
subreddit?
yeah, like the main sub.
Like if
Um,
I got banned from there like years ago because I can't even remember, but I literally think it was because I defaced their r/place mural of Dan. So I feel like the mods of there have always been unhinged. I'm not also I don't know if I'm not an H3 fan. I
mhm,
mean I like his content now, but I mean I liked him when I was in middle school too, and he was doing like the stuff with Filthy Frank when I was in middle
mhm.
school. But I
Well,
think
before it was like a place of memes, and yeah, they're
yeah,
pretty
no,
like
and
protective over
it
crew and stuff. But
yeah.
then afterwards, it was like they were less protective over AB, who happens to be, an Arab crew member, less protective over
I
Lena, who happens to be an Arab crew member,
Okay,
even less
we're getting
protective
a
over
little bit in the
Olivia.
weeds here.
So
Diego,
no,
you
I'm
said
just saying,
something.
like,
that's where this born. You poor redditors. This
born
shit's in
nerds.
the
That's true.
weeds.
But
Diego,
I'm just
you said
saying,
so.
like,
Oh yeah, go ahead,
it just has.
Monique.
No, I'm just saying, like, I know there's the community that you see on like YouTube, but that is, YouTubers that go to Reddit and then they try to live on Reddit, and then
Yeah.
you have like a different ecosystem, and then you see it kind of like change, like in real time in a
Yeah.
different way. So you'll see
I know.
Ethan
I
say one
saw it.
thing on
I've seen it.
in a video versus like when you live it online, like in the
On yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
on their page.
Okay. I want to go to
yeah.
Diego because he said that he's attending a protest tomorrow, and I think he mentioned something about how Hasan kind of helped him become politically activated. Would you say that's
Yes, exactly right.
accurate, Diego? And would you say that like how do you feel this whole drama has affected Hasan? Has that changed your mind about him at all, or what's your experience been there?
Well, I think that what we were what we were talking about again, about the content being a net positive. Well,
Yeah.
I think in Ethan's case is kind of neutral, I guess, since he's more on the drama side on the internet. I don't think that affects real world politics. In Hasan's case, it did actually, at least for myself, I became activated. Politically activated to to his content,
Yeah.
and I will say that
What moment inspired you from Hassan's content, would you say?
anti-imperialism.
Okay.
Okay.
Just him basically talking about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what
What's the
not
protest
just
you're
him,
attending?
but other leftists in general. That just activated me because Panama has, been a puppet government since the 70s, I think, onward.
Sid, what are your thoughts about like if Hassan's kind of a force for good? Because I think the whole point of the content nuke was to make the case that he should get, if not taken off of the internet, at least knocked down a peg or two.
A force for good on the internet, a net positive, is Hasan. I guess it depends how influential the worst elements of his habits are. Like, I don't think necessarily normalizing or putting terrorists on a pedestal via propaganda that's directly shown or glazing is like good. And I know he has a young audience, and if they take that part of it serious, that's in.
Wait, who sorry, guys, I just joined.
Hi.
My name is Vadim.
What's up,
And
Vadim?
Hello.
what's happening, folks? So, the is it Emery 63 that was just talking?
It's Sid that was
No,
just
not me.
talking.
Okay, so just I'm kind of somewhat here to call bullshit on some things, and
Love to have it.
and when I say that, please don't like take too much offense.
Vadim
Because,
is here to make the
like,
content
a lot of
exciting
things-
to watch.
there's a lot of things that I sometimes I don't blame people for not getting the facts straight because there's a lot of crisscrossing information there, if you will. But anyway, what are you're clearly talking about the Houthi kid, right? Who was not actually a Houthi.
No. I'm talking about he played
NMP
legitimate, multiple produced Houthi
The clips of him
propaganda
watching it with
journalists
NMP
full.
lol, where he's
So,
watching the music videos.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
okay.
music they
You're-
just like to dance.
He also played like
Yeah, that's like a
Just
dog.
like
Right.
he also played the
Which groups were those? One of them was the.
But also, he raised up.
I don't
he
think it
straight up
matters what
blazes
groups that
yeah,
visual
no,
alone
it
is a
absolutely
red
does.
flag.
It
Hezbollah,
absolutely does because
Hassan Nasrallah, Hamas, Houthis. 4 of them. Likes them all. All
okay.
good.
Well, I mean,
If someone was
I
watching
don't
American
think any
troops
Hamas
dancing and
videos,
shit and being like, "Oh,
but
this is awesome," I'd be like, "This is
when
a
it
red
comes
flag."
to Houthis, the Houthis were not even like designate. They were not on the
They're
terrorist
hijacking
list.
civilian vessels. What do you
They were
mean?
not on the terrorist
talking
list.
about terrorist
Point if
propaganda.
you
You can
watch
try and
that
use
video.
They're
Saudi
hijacking
propaganda
civilian
in his
vessels.
video. Like, come on now, shit.
Wait, hold on. This is a true thing. The Houthis were not terrorists at the time that you watched that video.
Who cares? Does it matter?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
that
does
does
matter
matter,
because
'cause
it
they're
does
not
matter.
They
designated
got
as
taken off
terrorist
the list and then
organizations.
put back on the list within the 1 week period you made a statement.
They
Okay,
weren't
It matters.
hey, look,
Here's the thing:
if you ask
whether
me
they're
why it
terrorists or
matters,
not is
I need a
irrelevant. He
chance to
supports what
respond.
they do,
I need
and
a
they
chance
take
to
over
respond
civilian
why
vessels.
it matters.
All right,
Okay?
all right,
Okay, why
guys.
does it
We're gonna
matter?
let
Okay.
Vadim respond and just try to not talk over each other. Otherwise, we're gonna do the one person at a time speaking.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So the reason why it matters is because that was just kind of a lead-in to my next point, which is that I mean, there are a lot of people who have been designated terrorists. Nelson Mandela was, Cuba was for a long time, and they were not terrorists.
And this.
And what?
No, Cuba is still like a quote unquote terrorist state or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it still is. I thought that they had kind of removed it from that status, but you might be right. So the point is that like right to begin with, there are groups absolutely that I would designate as actual terrorists, like ISIS, no doubt.
Hezbollah?
They are Hezbollah. No, not really. I mean, have they
hijack civilian
It doesn't matter. Then the rest of this doesn't matter.
No, it does
They
matter.
literally hijack civilian ships. How are they not? Here's my thing. I don't care what the United States designate terrorists. I know the United States is a shitty fucking country that lies to make enemies. I know this.
Would you call?
But Hezbollah is fucking hijacking. I don't like war on civilians. That's why when October 7th happened, we watched the terrorist attack, and then Frogan was celebrating it. Then there was a problem because some of us don't like seeing any terrorism at all, even if it's for a good cause.
Okay. Well, then you would put Israel in there as a bigger terrorist.
But not Israelis, not the people of Israel.
Not the people. Not the people that are forced to participate in the fucked up army.
The last polling I saw,
maybe Netanyahu himself.
Let me ask you:
Israelis.
Would you?
Israelis agree with what's going on in the Gaza Strip?
The two of them that don't are named Ethan and
Hila. Doesn't matter. We're not talking about like obviously.
Ethan and Hila don't.
No country is a hive mind, and everyone thinks the same. But that's what the government is doing.
Generally speaking, like civilian violence is like unnecessary and shouldn't be done.
It shouldn't be celebrated online.
Even if the citizens are like as
we all agree that it shouldn't be celebrated online.
Themselves, I would say Israel going after like Palestinian civilians and stuff like that, treating them like they're Hamas, which is basically what they're doing, is like 10 times like worse.
But this is about H3 and Hasan, and what started this entire conflict was Frogan publicly celebrating the terrorist attack on civilians. And I could see from Ethan's perspective how that would be
It was not. Well, I mean, first of all,
she was celebrating in Discord. Her public tweet. What it could be is like, this is what a revolution. Leftists say they want a revolution until they see what it looks like, which isn't an outright. But in Discord, clearly afterwards, she was celebrating.
Because I know, first of all, that was posted like within the first few minutes of it actually happening. She like woke up right at that point, and
this was before
there was a terrorist attack and said, "Oh my god, I gotta gloat about this."
I mean, this is the thing, guys. And this is kind of like the ultimate place that I was like leading. Do you guys think of the ANC in South Africa fighting against apartheid? Like they
I don't care about the ANC in South Africa.
Well, but
that's not on my Reddit feed. Attacking my favorite comedy podcast.
But I'm asking you. Do you support the actions which many people called terrorist actions in order to, like, they eventually, as a result of that, helped overturn apartheid, and that's they were resistance groups that they were fighting that. So
are we here to argue that the Houthis and Hezbollah would benefit?
Do you guys have a problem with them for doing that?
Here's the thing. I don't care. I can sympathize with Ethan, though. That's what this is about.
Well,
Again, I'm not in this for the politics.
You guys can't do.
I don't care about apartheid.
You can't get. What do you mean you don't care about apartheid?
I don't give a fuck. I'm not here to talk politics.
Okay. So I'm saying that you do not support the actions that they did in order to overcome apartheid.
I'm not saying that. I said I don't care. I don't know anything about the topic.
Well,
I'm not here to discuss
I mean, this is the thing, because if you are not willing to condemn them for those actions, then you should not condemn other resistance groups.
I have a question here regarding Frogan's comments on October 7th.
Yeah, I would let
So let me say the tweet. Let me say what time it was posted, and let me ask my question. Okay, 1 second. Leftists preach and foam at the mouth at the thought of a revolution happening in America, but as soon as it happens in the Middle East, what they're doing is wrong. 3:28 a.m. So it doesn't seem like, from the context of what she's saying, it doesn't seem like she's specifically celebrating any violence against civilians.
Did you see her text in Discord?
Hold on. Is there anything leading you to believe that she believes civilians were slaughtered at that time?
That's what happened.
No.
Like,
But she didn't.
Alright,
No.
Do you acknowledge that she's
know that
still-
Answer yes or
she's
no.
still
Yes or
but-
no. Is there any released information that we can verify that civilians were officially harmed, not just soldiers?
At what time?
Yeah,
No
was there
one
any
knows.
So
verification
do
in
you
that?
expect me
is
right
there
now to
anything
actually
in that
Google and
tweet?
try and figure
Is there
out this
anything in that tweet?
information?
Hold on. Is there
based off
anything
the
in that
time
tweet
this tweet
suggesting
came
that
out?
she's celebrating violence on civilians specifically?
it doesn't matter.
It happened. It was
It
in
does
the
matter.
news. It was an
Point.
attack on a
Okay,
civilian
okay, guys.
The
concert. What are you
intent of
talking
how
about?
vile that tweet is, it does matter.
It into
If
a
she's celebrating
fucking civilian
civilians,
concert.
possibly children died.
Guys. We need to take
What
a
do you
step
think? That
back.
she just saw like, oh, there was an attack on Israel. Better talk about a revolution.
Swood,
No,
I'm gonna mute you.
she
You
knows.
gotta stop
What do you
talking.
mean? No, she's just a dumb ignorant that doesn't know the news.
A
She just
revolution
tweeted.
would be
All right.
specifically about like enacting violence on your captors, the soldiers. Yes.
Okay, guys. I'm gonna give you guys a long leash because the conversation's flowing pretty well, so I feel like I don't need to step in. But when I start talking, to try to like get the chat or get the conversation righted back on course, you got to stop talking. Otherwise, I'm gonna mute you. Okay. So I think Frogan is a little bit irrelevant here, but I think what we are kind of talking about is the origin of this beef with Hasan. So why don't we pick it up with on what really started this beef between Ethan
It
and
was
Hasan?
Rogan.
Sid,
Can
but
I
I know you guys say.
Can I give my take since I kind of dropped in?
Yeah,
early?
go ahead. Sorry. I
Okay,
apologize.
Vadim, go ahead,
I'm
and then Sid, why don't you talk? Because I think you've been wanting to and you haven't been able to for a while.
Sure. So there's definitely other things that one can cite, but I actually agree with Emery a little bit that Frogan is absolutely significant. But the reason why she is significant is because he spread like so many freaking crazy lies about her, and like I could go through those,
Go through them. I want to hear them.
Well, I mean, just let me say what I was about to say, and then I'll get to that.
And then you can go
So
through.
basically, I mean, this is short. Just the reason why I say that Frogan was a big part of all this was because he was just insanely obsessed with her. She did not like really fire back that hard with him at all. And not only did he like incessantly talk about her, misrepresent her, and if you want to hear like some of like the lies, I mean, like one is, this isn't necessarily a lie. This is like him saying something which is just untrue. That like he often says that she's one of Twitch's favorite streamers and whatnot, and when she got that month-long ban, she didn't even get a note, a message, or anything. Like, she has some level of clout with like creators who know her, but in terms of like the Twitch like inner workings, like the people who work there, they could give a crap less about her, like, honestly. And he completely misrepresents that. There's other things that I can mention that are probably better. That popped into my head first. But just to conclude, the reason why I say that she is very relevant is because he just went nuts on that woman so many different times on his show, and it was something that like just really stirred the pot. It really like it was very ugly, and on top of that, like, there were just a lot of nasty, vile things that he said, and and it got pretty racist too. I mean, it got incredibly racist and Islamophobic pretty quick, not just with him, but the entire Twitter, YouTube community, or not the entire, but a great deal of say the Destiny
Comments
sphere.
on Twitter are always going to be horrendous. There's nothing anyone can do about that.
Okay, Sid, what are your thoughts about the Frogan part?
Sorry.
It doesn't mean that any of the
I'm looking-
creators support it, so
something, guys.
using it as a point is irrelevant.
Using-
H3's not Islamophobic. That's just that is the
creators
dumbest
were
thing I've ever heard in my
racist
life.
against her. Ethan was racist against her. Anyway,
Yeah, no, I don't believe it. I
What do you
don't.
mean?
I'm standing on this. Ethan's not a racist
I'll get some
person.
actual examples
how
of
about,
it. I have notes.
All right, give me some notes, because I'll also give you some notes. Frogan is 100% a Twitch pick-me. What are you talking about? She averages 100 to 500 viewers, and she was in a fucking Sonic board game commercial with a bunch of other top Twitch streamers. She's clearly in a pool of Twitch streamers that they use for PR shit.
I'm telling you that they.
So it's not misinformation pointing out something obvious.
When she got a ban, and that
doesn't
means
matter either.
nothing. That literally means nothing. She got a ban. They never tell streamers anything when they get banned. It doesn't make the fact that she has front page relevancy with 100 viewers and is in literally their pool of TwitchCon picks when she's completely irrelevant.
She's not the only streamer that operates like that. That's not abnormal.
I know, but she's one of them, and it's just something we're pointing out. It's not a serious point. It's a joke that he says in passing, but you guys take it like it's a real thing, and then on top of that, you're like, and it's not even true. She's 100% an organic streamer. When Frogan is the fakest bitch on the website next to Denims.
Okay, I'm struggling to see how this is relevant to the conversation. This is extremely tangential.
Okay, I agree with you, but I just wanted to say that he is not the way in which he is correct. Is that
he is correct? He's just correct in the assertion that Frogan was a Twitch pick-me.
He's purely correct in that she was an element of it, because he obsessed more about her and kind of started showing his
because she was shit talking him on public discourse, calling him a Zionist freak,
and a lot of his weirdness.
Do you think she didn't say anything to Ethan during all this time?
Over and over on his podcast.
Do you think he bashed her unprompted? Do you think she didn't say anything this entire time?
At all. I don't.
It was prompted.
I think anything that she did or said, he has misrepresented a shitload of things that she did and said, and he acts like she has been obsessively fucking with him, and she barely has ever said anything. If you look at the things that he has lost his mind over, the Discord messages that she wrote after he and I'll get them. We can talk about them, because I think it's actually better to have things in front of us to talk about. But he lost his mind over the most inconsequential, what.
Look, I'm sorry. This is downplaying. There's nothing inconsequential after watching a terrorist attack where your family, your wife's family live, and watching a terrorist attack with people that maybe he doesn't know, but his wife's family knows, a place he's been and met his wife in multiple times, a place he considers a second home. Watch a terrorist kill these people, and then someone online is like, "Oh my God, this is great. This is what revolution looks like."
Yeah, well,
she after he unfollows her.
There was no news of civilian deaths at that point.
That's complete bullshit. You're pulling that out of your ass. You don't even know that.
Those
you literally don't even know that.
In a concentration camp and subject to the worst fucking conditions. If you were in those conditions and everyone you
you're justifying October 7th. This is what it all boils down to. So whatever. It is just, look, here's the thing. I'm a radical too. I'm all for political violence. But you shouldn't justify it on live stream and expect to have a Twitch channel. That's the problem here. Twitch was banning people for the dumbest shit 4 years ago, and now this guy's jerking off terrorists on stream and getting away with it because he's a progressive.
Okay, guys. Swood and Vadim, I'm going to mute you both for 5 minutes to let other people talk, okay? So go. I appreciate your vigor, but go chill out for now. Monique, what do you have to say?
I feel like I'm processing their trauma.
The trauma we just experienced.
Yeah, no, I feel like the Frogan thing is part of it because I feel like in a way that Ethan felt like Hasan has a lot more control over maybe the people that are around him in the same way that he does with his like crew, quote unquote. And that with like, I do agree with Sid in a way that like, you're going through like a lot of emotions. And so maybe you're just not thinking clearly on top of that. But I also don't think it started with October 7th in this sense. I think it started with the capitalism debate.
That's an
personally.
interesting theory, and that's another topic that I want to talk about a bit later in this discussion. Sid, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
There for sure was dissent brewing. What started the real fallout? I mean, there was dissent brewing. But that was kind of fun in the politics show.
No, yeah. It wasn't like bad. I just
mean,
think that was the
one
first.
thing I would like to point out, just in general, is that you can have disagreements with, you can have problems with people's behavior. Like, you can have problems, you can dislike Muslim and Arab people without being a racist and not related to their being Arab or Muslim. I feel like it gets conflated, and having an issue with certain people of certain groups, that turns into the argument, and I don't like it.
People point this out because it seems like a specific pattern of behavior where it's like, oh, I don't know. It seems like Ethan's heavily focused on these Arab creators at this current time in this specific scenario, like a little bit more than any other person, which is a little bit strange. Not to say that he hasn't been criticizing other people of different races, like Ludwig or anything like that, but there's a specific focus that feels like uncomfortable for most people in this kind of topic, especially.
And Diego, do you have any observations to make before we move on from kind of like what we're thinking started this whole thing?
Well, I guess it might have started with the capitalism versus socialism stuff, but I wasn't involved in or I guess I wasn't watching the leftovers stuff, so I cannot say for certain.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So that's my assessment, I guess.
I think capitalism stuff was like a contributing factor, but the main stuff was basically Israel Palestine. That's the more heavy focus stuff. But yeah,
Okay,
I
I unmuted
did it
Vadim
start
and
with the mod
Swood,
stuff?
and
Oh, boy.
I want to ask a question. Do you guys think that watching a Houthi music video and talking about Hezbollah and saying that you support their resistance against Israel is similar to Ethan not really covering what's going on in Palestine, and in terms of kind of like the net negative that does? What are your thoughts on that?
Sesame Street doesn't cover it either. That's not the purpose.
Yeah, H3 runs a comedy podcast. He had a little side political podcast, and then he realized that it is a bad idea. And he still gets political on his main podcast still. But it's just like that's not what his show is. It would be like that's not what it's for. Hasan sits there and covers specifically anti-American politics all day, so that's kind of what he does. Is he just watches that. I think it would be extremely odd for Ethan to be like, and today we're going to cover Palestine, whenever he made clear that he already supports Palestine. I don't know what else has to be said other than I support Palestine and he donated money to the cause.
So I
literally
think
uses liberal Zionist talking points, like
He has a spineless liberal, so there's a lot of Americans.
Arabs inside of Israel are fully integrated in the society, which is not true at all.
Right.
Also, making fun of like Aaron Bushnell's death is like another thing you could probably avoid doing if you want to appear more pro-Palestine. Seems kind of cruel.
Well, that I don't care. I disagree.
Am I still muted?
No, Vadim, you're good.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over anyone. I was just a little confused about that. Do you want to finish, Swood, and then I'll come in?
No, I was just saying I don't care about making fun of Aaron Bushnell's death. I don't think that's a good form of protest that should be encouraged.
You've got a
I don't
stack
think
of
it should be.
papers and
I don't think it should be
community.
made fun of either. It seems a little cruel to make fun of.
I mean,
the display.
I don't know how hard he went on making fun of it, but I know I said some pretty funny things.
Okay,
Look,
so
I don't care. I don't care about inappropriate shit. I laughed. I love when Hasan tweeted that picture of the gun. I think death threats and shit are funny. I like
I
bad
mean, like, yeah,
empanada.
as a joke, it's kind of funny, but like it's kind of like
And that's all he was doing.
improper
He's
more so.
joking about it because it's an absurd. It is absurd. He has an absurdist sense of humor, and it's an absurd thing. It's absurd.
So I think it's pretty silly to think that Ethan is meaningfully pro-Palestine. He has said some things that I think were good. I think he was kind of definitely growing at a certain point with that whole topic and whatnot. And for instance, when he cried seeing the father holding that his dead child,
And he still
that was
feels
very
that.
genuine, and I would never say that was insincere, but and so I'm going to connect the next thing that to uninformed leftists. You asked the question, was what similar to what was the question that you led in with this?
Was Hasan watching pro-radical group propaganda
Right.
effectively the same as not really covering the pro-radical Israeli stuff that Israel is doing?
Well, I think that actually something that is more similar that Ethan has done would be, say, like complimenting Yoav Gallant, who was, I know you know who that is, uninformed leftist, but can you remind me what his like exact position is?
He was the Secretary of Defense for Israel.
Yeah, the Secretary.
You mind if I cut in? Because you know that he
kind of
disavowed it, right? He doesn't stand by it.
I do have to step in and
he followed up, and it was just kind of like very half-hearted. He still was saying,
he keeps disavowing it every
Feud,
time.
I do have to step in and say that Ethan never disavowed the fact that Ela called him a good guy. What he did was he tried to contextualize Yoav Gallant's actions to get hostages out of Gaza and try to bring the war in Gaza to a close.
And that she didn't think about or know about the other stuff. And then they both deeply and sincerely apologize after they left. Just because he said that's why we said it. Just because he said her thought process. That's not him saying I'm not sorry. Or I didn't believe in that. That's just him saying why she said that at the time. Because at the time, the headlines were he's calling for a ceasefire. And that's what everyone wanted, a ceasefire.
I understand that. Like, I could argue against that longer, but I want to make a different point, which is I think that this is like pretty compelling in terms of like showing how dedicated he is to Palestine and just like, what he really feels. He had he's had exactly like one guest that he sort of framed as an expert. I don't really think he is. He's well spoken on the subject, but that's different from being an expert. He had Lonerbox on. And Lonerbox, aside from saying, I think like having a lot of hot takes when it comes to this issue, right off the bat, he stridently does not believe that there was at any time a genocide going on there.
Are we going to argue about what Lonerbox?
And that is and like, so to like what has he actually done that you think is so pro-Palestinian? Like, because it's sort of like, there are a lot of people out there that will ride the fence.
He's not a political person. He's not pro-Palestine. He's only, quote, pro-Israel in that it directly relates to him. If he were a Palestinian, it would directly relate to him and he'd be more vocal about it. But
the only reason he talks about it at all, I'm sorry.
How can you say that he's not political when he spent like the past
because he's not talking about politics the past 5 months. He's defending himself against the online mob that is painting him as a genocidal maniac for no reason. He's being painted as a genocidal maniac for no reason.
I don't think so.
And he's responding to the mob.
Okay, I think that this is a good point to.
I got my emotions there. I apologize.
I kind of want to go through.
The fuck?
being made to seem like a genocide supporter? Is it? Are you talking
Read
about
comments
Ethan?
about Ela and Ethan. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
I want to
read-
go
if
through
you
the
cannot look
entire
at the
group.
history snark and tell me that the main narrative is not that they are baby killers.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna
No,
mute. I'm
it's
gonna mute
not.
people
That's
when you're
insane.
talking. I want to go through the group, and I want you to give me what you think Ethan's position is on Israel and Palestine, and then how that differs from what the internet is describing his position to be. Okay, so Swood, we'll start with you. Try to keep it brief. You're unmuted. You're unmuted.
All right. Well, I don't think you've been muting us unless it's a shadow mute that doesn't tell us.
It doesn't tell you.
All right, that's smart. That's a really good system. All right. Someone else go. I'm sorry.
All right, Monique, you want to go? Like,
Thoughts.
what do you think Ethan's position is on this? Because he's been very, I would say, squishy on it. He doesn't really get down to any brass tacks.
I think he said he wants two-state. And then he doesn't really go into it more than that, because he's also said that it's really bad how Palestinians are treated, but also they're integrated in all ways of society and things should change, but also everything is like fine. So beyond the two-state, I don't know if that means two-state in like the same way it has been open air prison style, or two-state like redo some lines of where borders and stuff are, or what that means. But I do know it means,
And do
I
you
know he's
think
a two-state guy.
And do you think he's pro ethno state of Israel?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
because he said, he said the one thing, I think it was in like a members live where it was like him and Gila, I think. The concern of if they were to like outnumber them, like a common concern in like most apartheid or like segregated countries or timelines, like if the lower quote unquote people were to outnumber us, they might do to us what we are doing to them, type of concern.
Okay. Sid, you want to go?
Yeah. What's his take on Palestine? That's
Yeah,
the
what do you
question.
think his position is on the whole, what should be done?
Right now, he is two-state. I don't know what that means. I think he'd like a one-state, but doesn't see it as feasible in the climate. I think that's a lot of people's takes. He would like for Palestine to be free and not, but it's one of those situations that if you really know what's going on in Palestine and Israel, know the situation, how is there possibly a realistic way to deal with it? There's not, which is the problem. So people that are far, far removed from the violence, that don't see the violence, that don't understand viscerally what it's all about, aside from seeing terrible things on their TikTok feed, have these ideas about what would make it better, what could make it better. But in practice, it's like, that's just not the way reality works. There's 8 million Jews, 1 million Arab people living in Israel right now. Jews have been systematically removed from every spot in the Middle East since 1949. Where do you put these people? Where do they go? What are they supposed to do? Are they indoctrinated? Yes. Does that make them bad people? No. But what do you do with that group of people that are indoctrinated there? What do you do with this other group of people that are held captive in this little island?
Okay,
These
and
people that have
Sid,
been
just
beaten and prodded.
to top that thought off, is Ethan pro ethno state then?
Is he pro? No, I think he wants Arab people and Jewish people to live harmoniously, but it's like, that's not the climate. You can say that till the cows come home. It doesn't make it happen.
Okay.
You're going to have people that have generational hurt that are lashing out with kill. Like, this has been going on for thousands of years. What
Can
do you
I
do
say
with
something?
Please.
Yeah. Well, let's just go down the list. Or Shadow, why don't you go then now?
I just want to address what will happen if the Palestinians become free. It happened in South Africa. It's not something that hasn't happened before. There has been apartheids, and they've been reformed.
I don't know
this idea
South African history,
that
but I do have a
this is
question.
like a
Did South
unique
African black
situation.
people
It's not a
have an
unique
October 7th?
situation, huh?
Like, have you know, I don't know.
Let's get to the next person. Then
Yeah,
we can
Emery,
have
why
a-
don't you go
Please.
ahead?
I think he's like again two-state solution. I think he has more of a focus on Israeli safety overall over instead of Palestinians. But I don't think he
Damn.
completely dehumanizes Palestinians in every possible way to where he would encourage a genocide or advocate or be happy about one. That being said, he seems to benefit from basically apartheid. He's pretty much okay with that state of affairs for the most part. I don't think he acknowledges it properly. He seems to do like a lot of like sanitization, either from like the past, either he's like ignorant or he like actually sincerely like I don't know. Like it seems like yeah, he's more focused on Israel, benefiting more than Palestinian people, but he doesn't want to completely genocide them or anything.
Diego, what are your thoughts?
I mean, he's not pro-Palestine. I can tell you that much. He definitely does not. I think he's pro-Palestine until it's convenient for him. I guess that's his position.
All right, and Vadim, we'll end it with you.
Okay. Well, I think that when you really get down to it, he is pro-ethno state, and I think I mean, this is the thing. He's obviously someone who has been extremely conditioned and influenced by his roots, by the time that he spent in Israel and family and whatnot. And I'm sure that in his heart, he doesn't want any of this violence to be occurring towards, Palestinians. And he definitely, I think, has more goodwill towards Palestinians than a great deal of people who I would say I do at the end of the day think are pro-ethno state. But here's why he's pro-ethno state. And it's something that he just doesn't get. And it's a big problem. Basically, whether you like it or not, if you kind of at the end of the day, if you are on the side of perpetuating the system that is keeping the apartheid system going, and really just kind of the Israeli state is it is a Jewish supremacist state. Like they have laws that basically say like Jews are like I'm gonna like mangle exactly like how to say this, but basically like they just one in terms of their demographics, and two in terms of just like not necessarily rights, but they have a lot of protections and like a whole lot of like things that only they are able to do, that both Palestinians and Arabs like it's far more difficult, or they just can't do. And at the end of the day, if you have this belief that in order that like if you stop doing that, that's going to basically like his belief. And I'm sorry guys, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so I think I'm not being as clear as I could. But basically, at the end of the day, if you are not against ending the things that perpetuate the violence, then that's why he will say like there's no way that there could be like a one state. It's because he thinks that basically all those people are going to, like he's even said like that'll just be the death of all the Jews in Israel. That's what the white people in South Africa said before apartheid was was reversed or undone in that part of the world. And it's not going to happen, but he has that belief. He has a very deep paranoia, and that is like kind of the case with a lot of I think a lot of people like him, sort of like very left leaning, but not so much on Palestine and Israel type people.
He seems to sincerely think that Israelis would not be safe if like one state solution happened now.
They
no,
wouldn't be if it happened right.
That, but that is I mean, at the end of the day, I understand why people think that, especially like when they are in the culture, they like the propaganda is very effective.
When they're seeing the bodies.
But it is basically a racist belief to say that, like, I mean, here's a question. Can you guys think of any people in the world that were like aside from Palestinians, give me a group that were deserving of being like of having like being subject to apartheid and being subject to a great deal of the horrible things that they are, like, they just kind of want freedom, like everybody does. And I'm not saying that it would be like sunshine and rainbows if all of a sudden they had their basic fucking human rights, but they're not going to go on a kill crazy rampage. And that at the end of the day, a lot of Zionists and people like Ethan, whether or not you want to say he's a Zionist, that's fine. But a lot of people like them, that's what they think at the end of the day. And it's a barrier between making progress. And it does kind of just, as the last thing I'll say, that sort of thinking does make people support the ethno-state system in Israel. So that's all I have to say on that.
Can I just say something here?
Yeah, go for it.
United States have had a colonial enclave on my country for 80 plus years. It would be hard for me to emphasize empathize with someone like, they met in the Panama Canal Zone. Why would you take that away from them,
All right.
Panama.
I don't get you. What are you saying?
I think he's breaking up a bit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, am I?
I think so, yeah.
I think he was talking about Ethan joking about, or I don't know if he was joking, but it's when the Panama Canal came up, or they were talking about Jimmy Carter, and they were talking about like and like Lena brought up like the
breaking up here because.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Diego might rejoin us
for some of the stuff people were missing, but it was like a joke that Ethan had made, or a comment Ethan had made about like, why did we give back the Panama Canal? Like that was so stupid. Like we should have just kept it for the revenue, which goes to show like the colonial like mindset.
What do you think he meant that though? Or do you think he said that in passing as a bit? Because I know Ethan Klein. Definitely did not mean that.
Okay, Diego, do you want to finish your thought?
No, I was saying that, United States had a colonial enclave for 80 plus years. And it would be really hard for me to emphasize. I'm online right now.
Empathize?
Empathize. Thank you. It's, oh, look, they met in the Panama Canal Zone. Why would you take that away from them?
Did one of them live at the Panama Canal and grow up there in this hypothetical? And their family grew up there and that was their home country?
Well, if it's colonial, yeah.
I think we're just saying in general that it's difficult for someone living in an imperialist country like America to empathize with people living outside of that scope of influence.
I hate America. I do. They're a big colonialist dickhead. But I mean, as Ethan is in America. Ethan Klein is a guy who runs a podcast.
And as Americans, we all benefit from a bunch of
Yeah,
terrible
shit.
systems.
So
Every
like,
single
unless
one of us
look,
here.
I'd be down to start a revolution. If we want to actually start a socialist revolution, I'd be down. But I don't see any online communities doing that. I just see people freaking out over Ethan Klein on Reddit.
Well, to be fair, Israel
We
is a
must
settler,
create the condition
colonial,
first.
you know, experiment to be great.
Yeah, I know. Israel is a puppet state of America, pretty much.
So while we're kind of
would you say, Swood, that any platforms that kind of propagate Israel's actions, their genocide right now, would you say they're just as irresponsible as Hasan platform a terrorist, or how would you feel about that?
Personally, I don't feel Hasan is. I mean, I feel it's shitty, but I'm more of a problem with the fact he's not banned from the web. It's more of a moderation issue for me. And
okay, so
hypocrisy
you want consistency, basically.
I want consistency. That's my favorite thing in the world. Is good. That's why I hated Ethan Klein for so long, because he wasn't consistent. I was a big Bo Blacks guy. I was like, Ethan Klein's a hypocrite. But now that he's on this Hasan arc, he's consistent again. I like consistency. He's a shithead sometimes,
Wait,
but he's a
so-
consistent shithead.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Why do you
Nuts.
think Hasan should be banned?
Because people got banned for so much less on Twitch.
He's saying that
fucking
Twitch is
less.
doing.
No, I'm asking a question. Like there needs to be like a thing he did. So I'm just
Because he
curious.
platformed terrorist propaganda. It's in their TOS that you cannot do that.
He's saying he wants consistency for the Twitch website.
Who are the terrorists? Who are
He
the
doesn't
terrorists?
want. He doesn't want Twitch playing favorites.
Dude,
And now a
you-
lot of
Not
people
even the
watching
kid.
thing?
Not even the kid. But just
You're talking about the music video,
videos
right?
alone. All of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that music video at the time that he had watched it, the Houthis weren't because
I
Biden
don't
had
think
taken
that's
them off.
relevant. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't
I don't
matter.
think
They're not
because they were.
terrorists. Like terrorists
They're not on the list. That's literally the nerd emoji. Actually, they're not on the list at that.
Then how do you define a
they
terrorist?
target civilian vessels.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I just think like it is the biggest fucking joke to act as though Ethan is consistent. Because the fact of the matter is that
he's a consistent crybaby. I love it. He's a petty bitch.
Hey, dude, come on.
Not you,
sorry.
Ethan. Ethan. He's saying Ethan's a petty bitch, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
yeah, no, that's what I said.
I'm talking about his consistency here, okay? And I think I don't see how anyone here could legitimately refute what I'm about to say. So on one hand, he says that he, claims to care so much about all this supposed crazy anti-Semitism that's going on Twitch from Hasan, from Frogan, all these other people. And yet at the same time, we all know that he incessantly gets like nearly all of his points from Destiny. And Destiny is the guy who has broed the fuck out. And
now we're going to defend Destiny?
People let me finish.
We're not
this,
doing
dude.
it.
Why? Look, dude, why are you afraid of me making my point? Okay?
I am afraid. Get back to it.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, it's because you don't have you won't have.
I'll defend Destiny.
You won't have a response.
I'll take the bullet.
Like brainless.
No, don't do that.
Hey, can I finish? This is important. Okay, this is maybe one of the most important points that I'll make.
That he was friends with Nick Fuentes.
All right, we're gonna let Vadim finish. Let's go.
Fist bump. Had burgers. His wife served them grilled cheese. Also, Lauren Southern. Not only was he friends with her, he was he was fucking her. And yeah, I will be that kind of crude with her because she is someone who influenced the Christchurch shooter and whatnot. But anyway, here's the thing. Okay, any sort of shit that Hasan has been has been criticized for. It's nothing compared to having that friendship and having him on so many times and relating to him like a cool, fun.
Who on?
Well,
Ethan never had Destiny on.
What he did. And lastly, Destiny has admitted that he knows that he resuscitated his online
Fuentes'
career. And so someone like that is way more influential in American politics and is
And he's banned on Twitch, and Ethan has never platformed him.
neo-Nazis. So he does not care. There is no consistency, and you're a joke if you say that he does.
Wait, can
Hold
I play
on. I'm
devil's
actually
advocate?
banned,
No, I'm
devil's
and
biting the
Ethan
bullet.
has never
I'm
platformed him.
I'm biting the bullet because he brought up Destiny. I'm gonna bite the bullet. There is such a massive difference between Hasan having that Houthi kid on and Destiny having Nick. When Destiny had
The
Nick
kid was
Fuentes
not
and
a Houthi.
Lauren Southern kid, I don't care. I'm gonna say
The
it.
kid was
I'm
not
gonna
a
say
Houthi.
it. I'm only
wasn't a
saying I don't
Houthi.
think he was a Houthi. I do not think he was a card-carrying Houthi member. I don't think he ever held a gun in any Houthi thing. But
He did. He held a gun, but not yet. Not a
Hasan
Houthi.
introduced him as Tim Houthi Chalamet, so I will call him a Houthi for the sake of conversation. Because
It's
that's
not
how
illegal
Hasan
to
presented it
interview a
to him.
Houthi.
It isn't. I'm not saying it is, but here's what I'm saying. Hold on, no.
It is against terms of service on
It
Twitch.
is against terms of service, first of all. And well,
That
hold
was
on, hold
added
on.
retroactively.
It's not.
When Destiny,
not against
hold up. When Destiny did streams with those alt-right freaks, he debated the shit out of their ideas. He called them wrong. He may
Didn't
have
he
sat
suck
down
Nick
with them and
Fuentes' dick, or
humanized
am I
them. No, he
mistaken?
didn't. I wish he did, because that would have made jerking off to the video so much better. Okay? But
Oh
no.
my god, dude.
Instead of
No.
he sat down with these people and he humanized them.
Dude, you can
It's because he's a human. He's
But he
19 years old.
disagreed with everything
From
he
Yemen.
said. He disagreed with everything Nick
But
Fuentes
the
and
kid
Lauren
wasn't
Southern
a
said,
Houthi.
and he debated them. I don't care. That doesn't matter.
If you are laughing,
It would have been more contentious if he was a Houthi.
having like Sammy's, like going out.
Do you
for,
acknowledge that he doesn't
going out
agree?
for burgers?
And everyone
They were
that watched that video came to the conclusion that
people
holy shit,
watch
this guy's
that,
crazy.
and they get the impression that people like him are way less dangerous than they are.
That's
They
a
get
fair
that
assertion.
impression that you can
So
just
you're
be cool,
so do you think the
cool
same applies to
buddy
Hasan
friends
in
with
that
guys like
case?
that.
In that case, do you think
Fuck
the same
yes.
applies to Hasan?
No, but that
Kid wasn't a Houthi.
And what? The kid wasn't a Houthi. So what?
Well, then why did Hassan bring him on as
Hassan
Tim Houthi
Nasrallah.
Chalamet?
Because he thought he was a
Why?
Houthi.
That's racist.
Thought he was a
He's the most
Houthi,
racist
and then he
shit I've ever
found
seen in
out.
my life.
Dude,
He
can you
did-
calm down?
So
He
okay,
thought he was a
Passion.
Houthi. He
That's
brought him
passion.
on.
Don't tell me to calm down.
I mean, it's really also actually fundamentally stupid to say that the Houthis are if you really know what the Houthis are, and that
They attack civilian transportation. That makes them bad in my book. I'm sorry. I don't
Wait,
like
so
attack
so
civilians.
what about
They-
the IDF? What about the American military?
They're bad too.
Bad.
American Army's bad. I
Bad.
hate
Should
them.
people be banned for having like someone who like supports the troops? on
There are rules
screen?
to engagement with the
There
American
are
Army
rules
IDF.
in the terms of service.
You're saying that the
Hassan has
IDF and the
broken.
American military have not committed mass atrocities?
I think
I'm sure they have, but in the grand scheme
You're
of
sure
things,
they have.
the people
You remember
making
Iraq?
those rules aren't writing that
Who
down.
said they
All right,
are?
I know we live in a fucked up world, but
You remember
Ethan
Iraq?
can't control that. All right.
There's been like hundreds of thousands of people killed in Gaza.
Go ahead, and I'll ask my question later. I've been talking a lot.
Sorry, it's silly to say, like, if you're gonna make a argument about the Houthis, even though this kid wasn't a freaking Houthi, which would have
Whatever he
I'm sure
thought he
changed
was.
the trajectory.
He thought
He
he
did.
was.
He thought he was. He asked. He
Which
asked him
means-
how he feels about Jewish
So it
people.
doesn't
He was
change
platforming
anything.
a
It's still
Houthi.
just as bad.
Because he said
Yeah.
no. Because the kid said no. And why should he believe that this kid's lying? He's 19 in Yemen. If he wanted to say yes, he would have said yes.
Wait, he said he
a
was
19-year-old in Yemen. A 19-year-old in Yemen means that since he was a child,
Wait, hold on.
his
hold on.
home
Can I say
country
something?
was being bombed by Saudi
Guys.
Arabia,
I know he's
supported
just
and
like
armed by the
Frank.
Western world.
For the
should make
purposes
him
of this
dangerous.
So that's why he had a
conversation,
chill conversation
Wait,
with him. No, but
hold
this
on.
is what I'm saying, like, because I asked about like why you think Hassan should be banned,
Mhm.
and so like your premise of your
Breaking
argument
terms
is,
of service.
Yeah, for breaking.
well,
Wait,
okay, so, like
Can I
what
ask-
term of
can I
service
ask
did he
a-
break? Because this one's clearly not.
Platforming-
what happened.
Yeah, wait.
This kid
For the
wasn't a
purposes of
terrorist.
this conversation, can we pretend as if this person was a terrorist, just for the sake of this conversation? Because Hassan
But he
did
wasn't
say,
a terrorist. No,
he did say-
I
hold on,
refuse
hold
to
on. He
capitulate.
did say that he would have platformed. He did bring on the kid, thinking initially that he was a Houthi pirate. So let's, for the sake
Yeah,
of the
that's true. Yeah,
conversation,
and then if
for the
that
sake of the
happened, okay,
argument-
maybe he could have gotten banned, but it didn't.
Sure,
end up
yeah.
happening.
Right, and
So of course,
right.
so
And
why
it's
should a Twitch have banned him? It's not a double standard then.
Yeah, it is important. I agree with them. but it's important to understand that by no means did Hasan think that the Houthis are terrorists. I don't think that they're terrorists either, and I can defend that. But there's a difference between like you guys are almost painting this as though he thought that the Houthis were terrorists, and that's important. There's they and like I said, they were not on the terrorist list at the point that he had that conversation. That's just a fact. So
Or Hezbollah? Are we talking about
Did,
Houthis or
did
Hezbollah?
Hasan view them as freedom fighters,
Houthis.
something like that?
they are freedom fighters.
I know. Is that what
Yeah,
the
but also
perception
like what
was,
you're
though?
saying at that time, like yeah, like
Is
they weren't
Hasan-
on the terrorist watch list anymore. Biden
Well,
took them off. So
yeah,
to
I mean,
that
it
same
doesn't
degree,
change
someone
it
shouldn't
doesn't
be
change
able to
anything
Yeah.
that
So okay,
that it was.
so in 2009, that means that you're not allowed to interview Nelson Mandela because he had been on the terrorist list.
No, you can. That's not. I'm not talking about what America's justifying a terrorist. I'm talking about people that are definitionally terrorist in the sense of the word, in which they are inflicting
Okay, but
terror on
then-
civilians for ends of a political goal. I
Okay,
don't
but
give
then
a
the
fuck
American
what our fucked
military
up
are terrorists.
I
The
know that.
IDF are
I'm well
terrorists.
aware of this fact. I think that it sucks ass.
So you think they should be
especially-
banned then? So do you think H3 should be banned for having Gila there? She was in the IDF. I don't think that, but I'm asking if
it's
you do.
completely different because they aren't platforming them and interviewing them and asking them what it was like to be on a ship with hostage crew.
This
It's like
kid
the
just
biggest
like
glaze
Luffy.
wasn't a
all the
Houthi.
time. He's just like Luffy.
The
Swoot.
kid wasn't a Houthi, but also Gila was interviewed on the podcast talking about an illegal raid she went on in Ramallah.
That is true.
Yeah, I
Which
already
is a
know
war
She
that.
wasn't
crime.
armed.
Which
She
is
was not
completely-
It's a war
armed.
crime. It's a war crime. It doesn't matter.
She was not
You wouldn't
Terrorist.
armed.
Doesn't.
It was a civilian home.
It's a human thing. If
By
you
Swoop's
are,
logic, basically. Yeah.
It was
I
a
won't
civilian
go over
home. How is
Yeah.
that
I won't
different
go
than a
over it
civilian
again.
boat? Also, why were the Houthis doing that blockade?
Wait.
Good question. Good question.
Did
good
he
question.
kill people?
No,
Sorry,
but she
Gila
raided
went
a
on an
civilian
illegal
house
raid in
and
Ramallah.
yeah.
No,
they
actually,
weren't
I
supposed to
saw
be
Ramallah.
there.
there's a Bad Empanada was
Just-
playing a game where she kills people, so she definitely did.
No. I'm not saying she killed people. She went on an illegal raid in Area A of the West Bank, which is like extra illegal because it's occupied
Yeah.
territory, but that's the part of the territories that the Palestinians are supposed to have total control over. She went on a
Do you think
raid
she was
to
aware
a
of
civilian's
this at the
house.
time?
Yes.
That's a war
Of
crime.
course they are.
Do
Yeah.
you think she was aware of all the intricacies of that, or do you
Dude,
think
No,
she
but it
Yes.
doesn't matter. Do you think that the Houthis
No, you
are?
don't get it. She's like
Do you think that the
Naruto.
Houthis are? But also, I want to ask again, like, why were the Houthis doing that blockade?
I don't
No?
care. I know that they're fucking attacks on civilian ships. All right.
But
And
Why
I
were they
hate
doing
that.
it? Like what were their motivations?
I don't care.
Wait, do
Their
we have like,
motivations
do we have
were
real evidence that
because-
that kid was not a Houthi?
we do. He said he wasn't a Houthi. But anyway, so what I'm
Yeah,
saying is
because I
blockade.
I knew.
We
I
also have a
wasn't
lot of
there.
evidence that he
I
is a
wasn't there.
Houthi.
No, there were
There's no
multiple
evidence that he's a Houthi.
journalists.
There's a
Photos
picture
of
of
him
him
on
holding a
ships
gun.
talking to captains.
Newsweek.
He was
when
interviewed by the New York Times.
When they interviewed him and they talked about him, they said that he was not a Houthi. So
Yeah, but anyway, so this civilian blockade, so this blockade that the Houthis in Yemen were doing, which the Houthis are the government in Yemen. The Houthis were doing a blockade on the Red Sea, which is right by Yemen. It's a very popular trade route of things going to Israel. So they said, so long as Israel keeps doing genocide in Gaza, we are not going to let any ships pass that are going to Israel. So yes, they overtook these ships. They took the crew hostage. They did not kill anybody.
For a year.
They were released.
A year and a
They
half.
were released.
Noble gentlemen.
In
Yes.
good
They were released.
By the way,
During World War II,
released.
during
Oh
World
my
War
god!
II,
Thank God. they got
Kidnapped, dude.
during World War II, do you think that it would have been wrong for
War crime.
some resistance group
Holy
in
smokes.
Poland to do a blockade on like goods going to Germany?
So, excuse me, what?
Do you think it would have been bad
to do a
during World War
blockade
II?
on Germany to stop
During
the
World War
genocide
II.
of the Jewish people or any other people?
Because I remember, so like World War II, there was a bunch of fucking countries fighting against Nazi Germany. Right now, there are not really any countries except Iran fighting against Israel. So, like, I'm asking if this was happening during World War II. What do you think?
If that was nice of them.
Yeah. So why is it bad now then?
Yeah.
And so, you mean
Israel-
the genocide?
I mean, basically, they're asking if in World War II during the Holocaust,
Yep.
if you would support a group taking over ship, kidnapping people who were and treating them okay, not murdering, it being relatively bloodless, and basically the exact same action as a means to hopefully to oppose it, but also
Were they
hopefully
civilian?
from the end of things. Would
Were-
you support that?
Civilian
It's
people?
stopping ships that are delivering goods to
Nazi
Nazi
Germany.
Germany. Do you
What
think it
level-
would be? It would. Would you support a militant group, a
Israel's
so-called
Nazi
terrorist
Germany?
group?
What
Not
would
Yeah,
really.
they're doing genocide.
mean,
They're
what
doing
would you be?
genocide.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you be willing to do
Yeah.
to stop the Holocaust?
That's the
Would you
question.
be willing to
I
try
don't
to
know, but I know
stop a
if a
civilian,
group got
at least do
holocausted and I
blockade
gave them
ships?
lands as
Listen,
reformation, I
killing
wouldn't take it away.
civilians is never good, right? I'm not
The
with that.
Houthis didn't kill any civilians in this
They
scenario.
didn't kill anyone. Yeah.
No, but they kidnapped them for like
They
a
have
year and a
before. They're not
half.
like they've never fucking killed
Yeah, they did. So I'm
anyone.
saying, if what if
It's like
a Polish
basically,
group did
it's
that
like
too?
I would say that shit is worse than what Hila did. She basically fucking did a ride along.
Yeah,
How is that
No,
comparable?
and they kidnapped a civilian from his home.
Gila,
Yeah,
you
but
work
the
in an
kids-
Well, they called him a
operation.
terrorist.
They called him a terrorist.
She was
She was
like, yeah.
How do you
No,
know
but that's
that?
not even the point. That's not even the point. So I'm saying in Nazi,
We have no
do you
proof
think it would be
Hila
okay
was
to do
there
that
for
during
an
Nazi
actual
Germany to try
crime.
to put pressure on
She
Nazi
said it.
Germany to
What do you
stop
mean?
doing the Holocaust?
Yeah, she
She's-
admitted it. So
She killed
It's
someone.
not.
she didn't.
Oh, she didn't kill
I don't
anyone.
know
She
if
didn't kill
killed
anyone.
but she participated in an illegal raid.
They arrested
Who gives
someone,
a
which
fuck?
in that
Who
that
gives a
situation
fuck?
is a war
Was it
crime.
a
It's a war
kidnapping?
crime.
By your-
lawyers
by your
determined
logic,
it was
was
an
it a
illegal
year
raid
and a half
based
long
off of her
kidnapping?
It's a
H3
kidnapping because an
podcast
occupation
testimony.
army can't do
By
that.
your logic, who cares? By that logic.
Bro,
Yeah.
I just want to
Wait,
look at the sky.
Why
It's
is
like
Hila get a
Attack on
pass? Why
Titan.
is Hila
I
get
want
a
to
pass
see
for
outside the
participating in
border.
illegal raids?
Do we
To be
actually have
honest-
evidence? Hold up. Do we have evidence it was an illegal raid, or is this just
All
like
the raids
Redditor
are
theory
illegal. All the
based
raids
off
in
of
Raids
Ramallah
are
are
illegal.
illegal.
I mean, you're
All
just
of them
like
are illegal.
legally
Rafa,
speaking,
yes.
you're right, bro. But the vibes
No,
say
in
It
Ramallah,
is
yes.
illegal. It is illegal because Israel is illegally occupying Palestinian land.
Nah,
But it's
your
not
vibes
like
are off.
Ramallah.
or
Dude,
immoral.
no.
Nah,
In the West Bank.
he's
We're
talking
talking about the West Bank.
legally. You're talking legally.
We're talking about the West Bank, but
Yeah, you're
specifically
right.
Ramallah.
Legally, it's a war crime. But if you go with
But who
vibes,
cares? You know?
she didn't kill anyone. It's not like
No,
a
you
year
know-
and a
It's
half
still a
No,
fucking.
hold on. Hold on. Can I talk? Can I
kidnapping
talk?
Cruise
Can I
ships, no
talk?
one died. No one
I
died.
can't believe you guys are so deluded. You think Hila fucking Klein is a war criminal.
Can I talk?
Yeah.
No,
What
that's
the
not what I'm
fuck?
saying.
All right, guys, let's let Monique talk, okay?
Do you know how fucked up that is? Like, she is a mother now, and I am a mom, so that is fucked up. You take a kid, you take their parent out, and then you have all these stories about how once someone's detained in like Israeli prisons, they are like detained for an extremely long time. So you're like, oh, what's gonna
Yeah,
happen? Are
right?
they gonna
And
be
shit.
there for like a year? Yeah, he could have been there for a year. He could be there for longer than a year. You don't know. And you're like, oh, who fucking cares? Ethan Klein. Like, these are actually like real people. You know that, right? Like, these are actually real people. You know, I know it's
Yeah.
a, quote unquote third world country, different, or, who cares? Who cares? Like, real people. She admitted, like, she told a story, fun, haha story to fill a podcast. Like,
Most
even the
people are
comments
con-
from
most
Yeah,
people
that
in America
time
are-
said it was fucked
Most
up.
people in America are conditioned to not really view the Middle East as a serious place, and like I don't even
Yeah.
think this is something everyone
Robert
realizes,
Baker
but I
had-
think subconsciously we all like tend to like dehumanize like people in the Middle East. Like we don't
Yeah,
really.
also,
think
sorry,
of
I do want to say,
real
like,
people
I
in
was
red.
not. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I was not just saying that, like, oh, Hila Klein is a war criminal, like that. But the
Yeah.
point I was trying to make is that if you just say that this kid from Yemen, this 19-year-old, who's lived most of his life under Saudi bombardment that was supported by
I
the
never said he
West,
was a Houthi, by the way.
you said he was a terrorist. And so
Yeah,
what I'm saying is that you're basing that off of nothing, it seems. Whereas Hila Klein is someone who has technically participated in a war crime. And so
I-
it's
the secretary,
strange to me
she
that you're
also-
able to
That's
also
fair
quickly
to
judge
from
as
your
one
point of view,
person
but
and
I
not
didn't
another.
say he
It's
was a
fair to
terrorist.
say legally. I mean, that's fair. I guess.
Okay, guys.
What are we
uh,
basing
like,
it off
legally
of
speaking.
if it's not legally?
I think we talked about this topic pretty well, and I kind of want to move on. There was a clip from today's episode actually that really stood out to me, and I want to talk about it. Ethan was talking to Steiny, and he was challenging him on his friendship with Sneeko, and he's saying that Sneeko's anti-Semitic
Fire
because he
episode
said
Wait.
anti-Semitic
Can
things.
you just let him talk? Because I can't hear. Like,
Yeah,
I wanna...
guys, when I'm talking, you gotta stay quiet, okay?
Yes, sir.
And Steiny's response to that was to say that Sneeko supports Trump and Trump supports Israel. So how could Sneeko be anti-Semitic? That's a moment that stood out to me a lot, and I think that we should talk about what is Ethan's definition of anti-Semitism, because that has been his main driving force in this whole crusade against Hasan and other leftist figures. And do we think that definition of anti-Semitism is a good definition, or do we think that it's not a good definition?
Dehumanization of Jews.
Diego, do you want to go ahead, because you haven't talked for a while?
Yeah, so can we just get this out of the way? There's some, I guess, in the minority who are on the left. Definitely, some people saying anti-Semitic shit. But I think, to your question, what was it like?
What is Ethan's definition of anti-Semitism?
Okay.
Mhm.
So, what is, I guess, it's not coming from a place of malice, I wouldn't say, but I fear that his definition is literally anyone who doesn't support the state of Israel. That's the core of it.
Okay, Sid, you spoke
like I
up.
said,
Do you want to go?
not coming from a place of malice. Like I will be like really pragmatic and in this situation, but I think it's anyone who doesn't, agree or support the state of Israel.
Sid?
I can speak next if you want.
Okay, Emery, go ahead.
I think his definition is basically it's all over the place, but essentially, if I view his actions, it seems like mostly if you have a heavy criticism of Israel and he disagrees with that heavy criticism. So while he can be with you on the genocide point, while he can't really deny any of that, if you're talking about, oh, it's apartheid, or if you're talking about how there's a specific culture that is happening that seems to,
Yeah,
kind of normalize violence
Again,
against Palestinian
not coming
people,
from a
he
place
gets
of malice.
really,
I don't think
really offended, and he's very protective of that. So he considers it anti-Semitism. I think he considers Hasan not anti-Semitic, or at least he used to, but he considered Hasan and his heavy criticism of Israel as something that led to a lot of anti-Semitism, and he didn't handle his community properly and how to, criticize Israel. Yeah.
I think I have a pretty nuanced perspective on.
All right, go ahead, Swood.
Because I actually, nuance isn't a thing with me. I'm lying, but I think it's very. I think he's misguided in his use of anti-Semitism. I actually don't agree. I don't think the people criticizing him stems from an anti-Semitic place, and he should know this because it's like literally the most woke mob of all time. But in his world, his thought process, and he's made this abundantly clear, is that the term that people are using to call him a Zionist in his mind is someone that thinks Israel has a right to exist. Not specifically a one-state or a two-state solution, but that at least Israel in some form should exist with a state majority there. So pretty much a two-state solution. And he thinks that the people calling him a Zionist, that the only thing that makes him a Zionist is that one belief that he has, because he's pro-Palestine in every other regard. He thinks the apartheid's gross. He thinks Netanyahu is despicable, but he believes that Israel should have a right to exist.
Can I just
And
get in on
it-
that definition really quick? When you say
Go
he
for it.
believes Israel has a right to exist, it's like Israel does exist. Could you expand on Israel has a right to exist?
Israel, it shouldn't become Greater Palestine. I'm pretty sure. I'm not a big political guy. I'm mostly here for the drama aspect. I know I'm a shitty person, but it's like he thinks Israel, where he went and he met his wife, should stay there.
The thing
Which
is,
is like
Ethan is really emotional, and
He's- yeah,
a lot
super
of this is
emotional.
like a reaction of the conversation he had with Hassan.
Yeah, almost
Like,
all of it is the reaction.
yeah, it's all
You wouldn't be talking about
emotion.
Israel or Palestine if it wasn't for the fact that people are calling him a genocidal maniac.
Yeah.
Even though he supports Palestine vocally and does not support the apartheid
He's
and has
feeling
spoken
he's
against
feeling
it.
Really important,
betrayed.
He
though,
is-
guys. It's really important when you say that he just wants Israel to, the Israelis to stay there, or
He wants the status quo, which fucking sucks. But
Can you
that's the
repeat
world we
again
live in.
how you put it? Because this is important to drill down on this. Can you say it again?
I don't know if I'll be able to repeat it, but he
Okay.
pretty much wants the status quo.
Okay. Well, it is like basically like a straw man, or I'm trying to think of the way to put it. Like the way that often people like Ethan or others like to kind of frame that is like, like these people want everyone to leave, and that's not what the majority of people are proposing.
No, I don't think he thinks that.
Wait,
I don't think he's
his
saying
last
that.
discussion with
He does
Hassan,
say that.
He basically no, wait.
No, he absolutely does, because I can prove this, because we all know that he has said many times that, like, basically, if you got rid of the system, that all the Jews would just be killed. So
Being
I
a
mean,
dangerous.
that's
Look,
that's
Wait, he said that?
Calling him Islamophobic
Yeah.
for fearing that the greater Arab communities might be hostile towards Jewish people isn't a crazy thing. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm racist, but that's not a crazy thing.
I mean, I think
knowing
not a
all the
racist
history
thing.
that's
You do sound
ever
a bit
existed,
racist.
resolved. Like,
maybe
like
I'm racist. But
What
Well,
what incentive do
in ways that you
Palestinians
haven't
wait
examined.
after a one state solution happened? What incentives would Palestinians as a whole have to be violent towards like Israelis at that point? Like,
I never said
there's no
family
incentive.
members.
It's
I said
basically
Jewish
like
people
the
fearing
thought
that
process
greater
is
Arab
basically
culture
dehumanizing
reacting
in
badly.
general, because it presumes that Arab people, Palestinian people, are inherently aggressive.
I never said that. I'm just saying there's a
I'm not saying
historical
you're saying that. I'm
precedent
saying
for
that's what he
Arab and
thinks.
Jewish
Yes.
tensions.
I think
He
we
doesn't
need
think
to,
that.
Yes,
we
he
need
does.
we need to say
He thinks
we need
they're
to stay at
inherently
surface
aggressive.
level about this, because it all happened when he was talking about the Israeli point of view. He was talking about how he was there for 5 years, and he had people, and he knew the point of view. He was just explaining that to Hassan, and Hassan said like, "Oh, you gotta watch how you speak, because I can control my fucking community if you say those things." But he was just like speaking his heart
That's
out,
not.
being super emotional.
He was
not trying to.
comparing. Hassan brought up Jewish Voice for Peace, and then Ethan said, "Oh yeah, well there were Jews that worked with that collaborated with the Nazis," and then the chat was like, "Oh, that's a racist thing to say," and then he was like, "Oh, why is everyone calling me racist in the chat?" Like there's a reason why. It's not just because he was sharing the Israeli perspective, you know?
Yeah.
Because Hassan's had Israelis on stream. He's had Ofer Kassif. He's had these two teenagers who decided to refuse. They refused to join the IDF. They're on a tour right now across like North America.
But that's
Like,
not the majority of Israeli point of views, and that's what Ethan is talking about when it comes to anti-Semitism.
I want to
he
be real with you,
sees-
dude. The majority of Israelis are pretty fucking racist.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like against Palestinians specifically. If you look at opinion polls right now, the majority of
I'm
them
sure
support
most
the ethnic
people
cleansing.
in most like Middle Eastern countries are racist in general. To be fair, I really don't care.
Why do you think Middle Easterners might hate Israelis?
There's just a lot of historical there's a lot of historical precedents for Jews being discriminated against because
That's not
they
true.
killed
That's not true.
Jesus.
That's not true.
That's not
let's
true?
let Vadim say
No,
something.
in Europe it's true, but not in the Arab
In the
world.
Middle East, Arab countries, Jews were never discriminated upon.
I think
by
There-
Arab
There was
I think most-
discrimination for sure, but until the
Nah,
state of Israel was
they are
established,
vibing, bro. Afghanistan, they
no, they
fucking
were.
love them.
No, they were, dude. Like, Jews. There's a reason why in 1492 or whenever it was, when Spain kicked out all the Jews, they went to fucking North Africa in the Middle East. They found a safe haven there because
I don't
even though yes, there was always
They
anti-Semitism
were loved
everywhere, it was a
and
Why aren't
safe
they there
haven.
now?
It was a
That's
safe
so
haven from
cool.
Europe. And then in 1948, Israel's established. Israel expels 750,000 Palestinians from their homes. They kill
Bad
15,000
move.
of them.
Bad
They
optics.
push them into
Israel.
Gaza and the West Bank. And then they did fake. They did what's it called? Fake bombing attempts in Iraq multiple times. And then in places like, and there were like people that went to Yemen, encouraged the Jews in Yemen to come to Israel because they realized after the Holocaust there weren't as many Jews in Europe to like fill their population ranks. Most of the Jews in Yemen left voluntarily. Most of the Jews in Morocco left voluntarily. But then, yes, in other countries they were kicked out in response to this, not in response to the Nakba. It's not okay. It doesn't justify it. But
I
that's
don't
the
think
reason
most
why.
of
And
them-
ever since, those Palestinians have been kept out of their lands, not able to return. And so there
To
is,
be
and so it
fair,
doesn't make it okay. But
Yeah,
there's
it
like
was almost
historical precedent for this. It's not
I think
just that
it was
like
that's
Arabs
almost like a
hate
different
Jews.
continent, wasn't it? Like
So there
almost
is a historical
Uganda or
precedent for the
something. It was
hostility.
almost like the
There's
Promised Land
historical
almost
context.
wasn't
So it exists.
Palestine. It was almost somewhere else, and then but
Yeah,
it
they
was like
Yeah,
considered
very
other
very
you
places
said
too.
that's
Yeah.
not true, but it basically exists, and it's the sad truth.
Look,
Okay.
I think that's a primary focus. That's not the primary focus. I think the primary focus, definitely the history matters here, but I think the primary focus is more so what's happening to us right now: apartheid, oppression, like constant, like unrest, like horrible things happening to him on a constant basis. That would, like, if you're under those severe conditions where you're like being fucked over severely, that's going to get to you. That's probably going to cause some resentment. That's probably going to cause some racism towards Israelis. So let's be real.
Okay, I want to step
Exactly.
in
Like
here
when you think
because
about it, the average. Sorry,
Theo,
go
one
ahead.
sec. I just want to step in because I think what you guys are talking about makes a lot of sense, but I want to kind of refocus the conversation back to what happened on this show today, which is it seems like Ethan's definition of anti-Semitism is being pro-Israel, because when Steiny volunteered that definition and said that Sneako's not anti-Semitic, he supports Trump and Trump supports Israel, that seems like that's the definition that Ethan is accepting. So I want to get people's reactions to that.
Can I
And we're going to start off with
I've
Vadim.
been,
Yeah, Vadim,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm trying to talk over. Thank you so much. So the answer is anti-Semitism seems to be whatever he, that is Ethan, wants it to be at any time, because he absolutely does very often equate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism, and those things.
If Zionist is being used to dehumanize Jews,
those are factually entirely different things. And he has also
Can you be a white
he
Zionist?
weaponizes his Judaism all the time, and you know, aside from Hasan and others, he's made like really strident accusations of people being anti-Semitic
if they're dehumanizing Jews.
What's that?
If they're
I mean-
dehumanizing Jews, it's
No,
anything that
Mika's
dehumanizes
rhetoric,
Jews that
for
causes people to
instance,
dehumanize.
was not at any point dehumanizing anyone.
Rogan was.
Jews or certain Jews or a group of
will
people
say
only
those
as
things
Zionists
all
and
the
not as
time.
humans.
Okay,
Rogan
you're wrong.
is
You're just wrong because he
actively-
does do it all the time, and I'm not going to like sit here. I have more to say here, okay? Because this is important. So also on top of that, it's important.
It's not that important, you know.
He's been legitimately more anti-Semitic in old clips himself, going off on like Hasidic Jews.
He's a
in
Jew.
Israel.
He's a
And you
fucking
can say that
Jew,
he's
what?
doing it to get laughs, but it does hit on all these genuine
self-deprecation.
anti-Semitic things.
And
Let
Hasidic
me-
Jews are different. You can make
Wait,
fun of
are
them.
you saying he's like making statements every time he's doing a show? Like he's like,
No, I'm saying there are old clips.
you know,
that
he's trying to make
haven't
people
seen
laugh,
them,
right?
haven't seen them, but he has old clips. And you know what? I don't want to say that like I like
It's
you know,
funny.
I hold this against him to against this against it. Oh my God, sorry. I'm not saying that I would hold this against him if he wasn't so like
You probably love
radically going after other people, but there are these clips where
Wait. He's defending himself here. Frogan is crazy out here. Love. Can we talk about the racial tier list?
I'm not talking about Frogan. I'm talking about clips where he is looking at like filming clips where he is on a bus looking at a like what do you call them?
Like 2016
Orthodox
and saying that they are stinky and talking about how disgusting their dicks are and all this stuff.
No, he was talking about
collaborated with him after these clips existed.
No. Hey. He said pubic hair. He said it's gonna be nasty down there because of the hair, because they don't cut the hair. It's not about the dick size or whatever.
I think it's pretty fucking weird.
No. He was
saying all this heinous shit.
No. Hey, you're misrepresenting this shit.
No, I'm not.
You are.
No. The reason why I'm saying this because like
he didn't say they had disgusting fucking dicks.
I'm totally like he was an edgelord, and he was younger and all that other stuff. I can sort of
still like that.
I totally give him like a pass on that stuff, or I would if he like
got the N-word pass.
If he
Jews.
No. There is
for the Jews.
I mean, what?
Not
but
the
real
N-word.
It goes further than like an N-word pass sort of a thing, because the thing is that like basically
Jewish.
like the things that
like you would talk about him as
99.7% Ashkenazi.
Okay, when Candace Owens talks about
purebred.
When Candace Owens talks about black people and calls them thugs,
she's
and
a meanie.
Talks about
she's a meanie head.
If she's talking about Hotep,
what I'm
then
saying
it's
is
different.
that like people can be racist towards their own groups.
Yeah, but Candace is not trying to make an audience laugh. Ethan is.
No, well, that's why I was saying that I would give him a pass if he was not so like ridiculously like just takes people.
He's making jokes, and Candace Owen is making statements. Ethan is not a fucking prophet.
Jokes have meaning, and so you drill down on like what is the meaning here, and the meaning is just like these people are gross and yucky. That's racist. He was being like racist against a subsect of his religion, and that's and it's fine that he did that. It's not the worst thing in the world. I somewhat agree with the Jew pass thing, but
whoa,
but
no, I'm joking.
It really comes down to the reason why I bring it up, because he is so strict with others. And I want to say, and this is very important, this is another thing, okay? So basically, and I can send this to you, uninformed leftist, if you want me to, because maybe you'd want to bring it up to like have it on the screen. But
okay, sure.
Basically, here, I will put this in our chat. This is really telling. This is very interesting. So I don't think this has gotten a lot of attention, but basically there's a post that I went to read the entire thing, but the post reads as follows. A few years ago, someone working for a PR company that had Ethan Klein as a client wrote a blog post about his experience with Ethan. Ethan apparently had a, quote, great idea to smooth over any controversy H3 were involved with at the time. The great idea? Blaming it on anti-Semitism. So now I'll read this blurb from.
Is there any evidence for this?
Yes.
Saying
he was planning this whole time.
The blog post that I'm about to read you.
I think you're onto something here.
No.
This is awesome.
The evidence is the blog post.
This is off the rails, bro.
That guy said it. Yeah, just the same evidence that Timothy Chalamet is not a Houthi.
No. This, guys.
You can't prove a negative.
Timothy is a soldier, guys.
This is
He's
on a
soldier.
vetted website, you dumb motherfucker.
Right.
All right, let Vadim finish his thought. Otherwise, I'm going to start muting people.
Infowars, the website.
Fuck up. It's on a vetted website. These websites
You are
where people
so mean.
It's a vlog. It's not a research paper.
No, this is. Do you realize that there are sites
Who I'm
where
talking to?
people that are vetted sites where they make sure that you actually did do the job that you say you
What
did,
side is it? Where's
and you
this link?
post on them.
Yeah, link.
I'll find it in a second. But basically, this person said the following week, Ethan got back into a call with Gary, myself, and my coworker Trent, and
Who's
explained
Gary?
in an exasperated tone that he had the perfect plan, and all he needed to do was act on it. After shouting at me and my boss, Ethan railroaded anything we said and encouraged us to implement a plan to make it look like all of his critics were attacking him from a purely anti-Semitic angle, and
This
that
all
the
took place.
attack on his brand and character was an alt-right conspiracy from 4chan. When we objected to the racial angle, he insulted Gary personally and told us we were hacks and losers before apologizing, throwing a charge back our way, and ending the contract. So, okay, you could say that this is that this person lied, but like this was out there before any. This is like 2022 or 2021 that this was posted. So, I mean, I just don't see what this person would have to gain by saying this. They put it, their name was attached to this. Ethan could easily sue if they were bullshitting. So
I think,
this is it's fine if you don't take this
Sure.
as real, but if one does, and I think that there's a good reason to think that this is very real, then this is a concrete example of Ethan having absolutely no problem with lying about a matter of anti-Semitism for his own benefit.
I don't think
So,
this
there you
matters.
go.
I don't think this matters because you could just see it in his actions. He clearly doesn't really care enough about anti-Semitism in the real world or whatever. He has a major focus
He
on
does-
Hassan
that's the
and his
part where-
effects, which is not nearly as effective as Elon Musk and X or whatever like that. Like I think his priorities are not straightened up. It's clearly
Ethan
he doesn't
can't
really
take down
care about
Elon.
anti-Semitism as much as he claims to.
I agree with you totally that it sort of doesn't matter because there are a million other examples that we can point to, and it's pretty obvious all of that. But I do think that it's just interesting in the fact that, this is a concrete example from the past where he was willing to basically totally bullshit about anti-Semitism and basically kind of make up some sort of victim narrative in order to
we can't take this
I
as
would be-
fact.
Yeah,
I
I
would-
have to cut you off. There's no.
I would be
I would
more
say
on
that
board.
there's credit to this if it wasn't for the point that this drama or issue, quote unquote, literally involves a war going on in Israel. Anti-Semitism, when everyone is attacking him for what he perceives as his Jewish identity, because the only difference between him and then the rest of the pro-Palestine crowd is he doesn't think Israel should be a race as the majority. Which I don't even know if that's how he thinks. I'm giving y'all the most credit here. Which is a completely, that's like what 50% of Americans think. Not even 50, maybe like 60 to 70. It's insane to put these expectations on him and then act like, I know maybe y'all aren't, but let's be honest, Reddit, YouTube drama, and H3 Snark act like he's the next Steven Crowder over this shit.
Well,
because
I
he's
think the big
a little
I think
bit
the big problem
pro-Israel.
I think
It's
the
more
big
so
problem
the
is that
crash out.
Ethan
It's
is
more so how he's
Yeah.
reacting. It's not necessarily
the crash
his.
out is completely justified when everyone is taking your minuscule stance of I think Israel has a right to exist and saying this
That's not
guy
what he
literally
said.
supports apartheid and killing babies.
That's
Do you
He said a
remember when
bunch
he
of
said,
stupid shit in between. I remember him saying a bunch of stupid shit in between, but all of that. Do you remember him immediately disavowing that and double backing on it every chance he gets,
No.
and yet you guys still bring
Yeah,
it up
he
like it
didn't
means
say that.
anything?
No,
He went onto
he
his
did.
Instagram
he did
story.
that shit. Bro,
Sorry,
Okay,
quiet.
okay.
He went onto his
We're
Instagram
getting a
story
little
and he
bit
posted
ahead of
the
ourselves.
quote. But yeah,
Swood,
I would love to
want
answer
you to
the
finish
question
your
if that's
thought.
all right.
Swood, and then Theo, and then we're going to go Diego, okay?
That was my thought. That was my thought. I ejected it.
Okay, Theo, what do you have to say?
Okay, I was just gonna say the Yoav Galant thing. It's not, he didn't immediately retract it. He posted on his Instagram the quote and was like, he's clearly talking about Hamas. Also, he's a moderating voice in the war cabinet. So if you disagree with me, it means that you want to prolong the war. It isn't just these little comments he's made. It's the fact that he's been instigating kind of
I mean,
all of this stuff.
the guy was
Like if he had just like stopped
he was
talking
a
about it, then
moderating
people
voice.
wouldn't care.
He just has like a layman's
Yoav go
perspective
on's a
of
war
things. Though.
criminal.
Okay.
He's like guilty of having a layman's
ICC warrant
perspective.
out for him.
Guys,
He has
we're
an
going to
ICC
start
warrant
talking
out
one
for
at a
him.
time now because we're interrupting each other. Theo, finish that thought up, and then we'll go to Diego. And I'm going to mute
Yeah,
people
it's
if you
just-
talk over each other.
Yeah, it's just Yoav Gallant was not a moderating voice. He has an arrest warrant out for him. With the ICC, he's only he's moderate in the same way that, I don't know, like fucking Goebbels was moderate. I don't know enough about who the Nazi war generals were, but it's a ridiculous statement to make. People wouldn't care about his liberal Zionist takes. There's a ton of them on the internet, but it's the fact that he kept instigating and picking a fight with Hasan, which is just the stupidest thing he could have tried to do, which Hasan ignored for like months until he finally responded. So it's silly to pretend like people are getting mad at Ethan when he keeps poking the bear and calling everyone Hamas supporters.
Okay, Diego, what do you have to say?
Let's analyze what I guess whatever you guys want to call it. I would call it, liberal Zionism. Let's analyze what Ethan or anyone, for that matter of fact, says. Oh, Israel has the right to exist. What does that exactly mean? Can we just like analyze it for like, I don't know, 2 seconds?
Okay.
Does Israel have the right to I guess exist the way that it is right now? Sorry, my accent is like really shoddy, first of all, and second of all, I'm a shy kid. But anyway.
Oh, you're doing good.
I get it. I think. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was
Could
just going
I-
to say, Sid, what do you
So,
think?
no-
Are we talking about Israel existing, like Israel having a right to exist as it is the way it is right now? What are your
Yes.
thoughts on that, Sid?
I think it's more about the civilians within Israel continuing to have a life that's similar to the life that they have now, non-related to war and violence. So, like, the Jews and the Arabs that live as Israeli citizens being able to continue to live as Israeli citizens where they are, where they grew up. I think he would tell you, and he says that settler communities are valid military targets. He's conceded at every point that you would expect him to concede. But as far as the people who were born in Israel, whose parents were born in Israel, that's what they've known, that they should be able to continue to live there.
Okay, Vadim, what do you think about that? Do you think Sid's on the right track?
Well, I think that's kind of like, I wouldn't even call that. Yeah, I guess you could call that a steel man of how Ethan kind of thinks about that. But again, it's just it's hard to hear that because the thing is that it's just, again, like people who want to see the apartheid end and want basic human rights for everybody and basically like all that stuff. It's not going to, I mean, yes, it would change their lives in some ways, but it's like nobody's asking for those people to like leave the entire country. In some cases, I guess you could talk about the right of return to
Vadim, can I give you one?
but so it's just like
Israelis to fucking die, or I don't know. Whatever you might think of anti-Zionism. Nobody wants them to leave or anything like that.
Yeah. They don't want them to leave. They want basically just everyone to have the same rights and
Vadim,
ability
can I hit
to.
you with one point? Just
What's that?
Ethan wants the same thing.
Ethan wants the same thing, but he believes that if what I just described, if you actually had that in the area, Ethan, like he does. What am I trying to say?
He wants a two-state.
He kind of speaks out of both sides of his mouth. He doesn't like realize that if he says that he wants that for Palestinians, he still says that like, look, we have to keep the system in Israel that allows the demographics to be at the point that they are. And all those things, like the things that he like wants to make sure that are implemented, that he thinks if they weren't, the Jews would be massacred. Those are the things that keep the just the oppression of Palestinians. Those are the things that allow it to continue. So it's sort of like when a lot of Zionists will say that, and the term Zionist, maybe I'll just use pro-Israeli government supporters. Like they will often say things like that and act as though sometimes they don't understand what they're like, the kind of what's the word, the kind of
advocating for
the way that the what's that.
They don't understand what they're advocating for.
Yeah, they don't understand what they're advocating for. I think I think that about Ethan too. I don't think he's thought very deeply about these things. But yeah, basically, I'm sorry. I'm kind of like I'm going to let someone else go right now because I
got a question for you.
Water
are you Creationist Cat?
What
did you do? Creationist Cat?
Yes, I did. I was Creationist Cat, and hey, it's Vadim as well, and I have taken a little bit of a break from the internet, but I'm coming back with a bunch of videos sometime soonish, and a lot of them, to tell you the truth, have to do with a lot of these topics and people that we're talking about.
Okay, so I want to wrap up this topic. Monique, Emery, Theo, do any of you have any more thoughts to add about this whole idea of Ethan's definition of anti-Semitism and how that's playing out in the context of like an ongoing genocide?
For sure.
I think he's incredibly self-interested and more interested in Israelis' protection and everything. So he's also he also thought like his stance was more publicly acceptable by comparison, because usually most people think of themselves as kind of like, well, yeah, I don't want to like kill all the Palestinians, but like Israel has a right to defend itself. So I think he kind of got bogged down in that. And then when faced with Hasan's audience and like the heavy amount of criticism that they gave him, he just couldn't handle that, and he hasn't been able to handle criticism in general throughout his career very well at all. And then when he takes conflict in all of his past internet beefs, and especially in this current one, he becomes a bit center-focused and malicious, I would say. I think he's becoming malicious. Yeah.
Monique, do you have anything to add?
I feel bad. I mean, I feel like anti-Semitism is like legit on the rise, and I think he is kind of facing it because of the crazy shit that Israel's doing. And then he's also saying crazy stuff like on his own, separate. And he's really bad at taking accountability. And so those like compound each other.
Okay, and we've been on this conversation for just about 2 hours, so I want to wrap it up. I do want to go back to something you said earlier, Monique, which is you think really the differences between Hasan's socialist stance and Ethan's capitalist stance is really the origin of this whole split between them. So I kind of want to talk about that, especially since Ethan has really started taking a battle axe to the concept of communism on his show recently. So, Swood, do you have any thoughts on that?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Like, what are your thoughts on Ethan's attack on communism that we've been seeing in his more recent episodes?
I think most of that's just fucking old, you know how it is growing up back when he did. He was anti-communism and shit. I mean, I don't blame him. I don't think communism's a bustling form. I think it's more so a result of his shock and him 180ing in the opposite direction because he didn't realize how far left Hasan really was. Like,
Can I
he
explain
considered himself
maybe
a
why I
social
think
democrat.
the I guess it fractured. I
Yeah, go
guess
for it.
it's he was having his little. I mean, there was the debate on leftovers at one point. I didn't watch
Yeah,
all the leftover shows. That just wasn't
me
like
neither.
for me. But it was on his own like podcast, and he was like genuinely shocked that his chat was not on board like the capitalist
No, yeah,
train.
that was definitely probably a wake up call for him. And I mean, I hate to bring him up because he is the boogeyman, but the same exact thing happened with like Destiny, like a few years
Mhm.
back. It's like a pattern Hassan has of his fans like kind of infiltrating a community and then showing. Not that I support Destiny or anything, but it is a pattern.
Hassan has always said he's a
It's the
socialist,
fucking
though,
thing.
so it feels kind of disingenuous for.
Yeah, no, yeah. If you had a
Hassan-
brain, like I didn't watch, I hated H3 at the time
Yeah.
because I knew Hassan was a scumbag. But if H3 says he didn't know, I'm gonna assume that. I mean, maybe he's an idiot. Well, you know, Ethan Klein's an idiot, but I'm gonna assume he didn't know.
Sword, you're the
Why
biggest
do you give him
defender of
that-
Ethan here. You're saying he's an
Why
idiot?
do you give him that?
He is.
Hold on.
Why do you give him?
Hassan-
Why do you give him the benefit of the doubt there when everybody knew exactly who he was at that time? I mean, those were
He
the big.
presented himself
Those
as
were the big
a
things that
socialist
people
Democrat
were
or
saying
Democrat.
about him
No.
when they were doing their podcast. It's like
Because
ridiculous.
because he did this podcast with Hassan to clown on right wing culture war shit. And then the Ukraine shit and Taiwan shit started happening, and he started realizing that they don't actually agree on everything.
But he still knew he portrays.
I don't
in
think he
his
did know. I think
his
he
content
did no
here
research.
portrays him. I just thought he was a progressive lib, and that's I don't know how anyone could genuinely believe that he thought that. It's like
Watch the first episode of Leftovers and take Hassan at his word, and that's what Ethan thought.
That is
Go
fair,
under.
yeah.
Wait, hold on. Go under the assumption that he doesn't know. Then that makes him like one of the most politically illiterate retards.
No, yeah, he
Yes,
is.
Ethan Klein.
That's why I'm so
Possible.
upset with
I
everyone
should
calling
never
him a
take. I should never
genocide
take
defender because he just
Ethan's
gives status
opinion on
quo
Hassan
opinions.
or his politics seriously. Let alone Israel versus Palestine. I should never take it seriously. I never will.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Fair.
Okay.
I'd also love to jump in on this topic. if
Yeah,
that's
go
all
for
right.
it.
Because I was watching. He did an episode recently, or whatever, like where he was talking about. He was trying to like dunk on communism again. I think it was when he did like the freestyle rap, which was incredible. And I honestly think a lot of it, because I think it was the profit sharing stuff that really kind of freaked him out in their initial leftovers conversation, in addition to the stuff about like Ukraine and Taiwan. But I honestly chalk that more up to the fact that Ethan's not very smart and he probably doesn't know a ton about like the history of these conversations, or these topics. So he was just like reacting kind of like reflexively to stuff. But about the business owner side of things, like he was really opposed to the idea of having to share his profits with his workers. And I honestly think it's because he enjoys being a rich guy. I don't blame him. Being rich seems awesome. And I just think it genuinely comes down to the fact that he likes that, and he does not think that he should have to share his profits with his workers, which
And he's
ultimately
also
is the core of socialism. And so I think that made him really, and I think that made him feel like a bad person, even though I don't think Hasan was trying to make him feel like a bad person, but it just made him feel like a bad person. And that was kind of where he started just reacting at things. Because even if you hear him talk about communism now, he doesn't know what he's saying. Like he was saying that like communism is responsible for like killing like thousands of people.
It
And then
is.
Dan brought up, well, like name me a US president who isn't responsible for killing thousands of people. And then
They
he had to
do.
chat and he had to chat GBT a list and the people he could find were like owners from like the 19th century. He just doesn't really know anything. I don't blame him. I'm not saying that he likes those slave owners. I'm just saying that he doesn't really know anything about socialism, and then he found out that he has to share his money, and then he didn't like that.
He also asked on a recent show, which I thought was really funny. He asked Dan, what do unions have to do with socialism? And Dan kind of like just laughed and then tried to like, you know, kind of talk to him like a child, but you know, explain it. But yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to interrupt because I thought that was really funny.
Can I ask a question to the panel before we're done? I think this is a really, really important question for this kind of topic, I think.
Yeah, let's do it, and then let's have that question be our last topic.
So one of the criticisms that Ethan is making is that Hasan refuses to watch his content nuke. Hasan has invited Ethan on a 1v1 debate on no gloves, taken seriously. Should Hasan watch the content nuke? Is he cowardly for not watching it, and why?
No, he shouldn't watch it because I mean, I think that when they say watch it, they mean like watch it online, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really the big reason why he shouldn't is because it's just going to give all of these like bad faith motherfuckers a million clips to slice up and dice up and frame him in like a really like, you know, bad faith way. He knows that. And I think Ethan knows that as well, and that's why he wants him to do it. A conversation would just be, you know, it would work just as well, especially since all of these things that he brings up in his video, every single one of them are things that he has talked to over the course of the past several years. There's nothing, literally not one point in that entire really crappy content nuke that is new information that he has not addressed. So it's just if it was new stuff, if there was like some sort of like, you know, bombshell information that nobody's ever talked about and that he hasn't addressed, okay, I could sort of see a reason to do that. But he's just basically playing more games by watching it. And and he is just saying like, hey, enough of these fucking games. Like, let's sit down, let's talk about this shit. And Ethan can bring up anything that he wants to from that video. He can do that. So no, he absolutely should not watch it. And the idea that he would be a coward when Ethan refuses to watch very short videos, which he knows makes him look like a fool, like the one that Denham's made in response to him. Like it's just the inconsistencies are staggering. Blows my fucking mind. It's really crazy that he can conduct himself online like that and just like, I don't know, look himself in the mirror. But then again, I think he is going a little crazy. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Swoods?
Restate the thesis one more time here.
Should Hasan watch the content nuke?
The content nuke?
Oh yes,
and is he a coward if he doesn't?
I think so. Just because he showed, it's a pattern recognition. He did the same shit to Willie Mack, and in their debate, he like vaguely referenced, because he clearly did watch it, but he like vaguely referenced to it, but never alluded to any of the things. Here's the thing about people like Willie Mack and Ethan: they aren't live streamers. They're not political people, but they can make good content and they can put their ideas out. But they are video creators. They put them out in video form. Ethan having he can't formulate his ideas to Hasan vocally because he's a blabbering goofball. But when he sits down for 2 months and churns out a video, he can actually put all the things that he's been feeling about their friendship and what was and all the drama into a format which can be consumed. For Hasan to not do that because he knows he can out-gish gallop Ethan in a debate, it's like pretty obvious. because he did the same shit with Willie Mack. It's like a pattern.
Sure. Anyone else want to comment on this?
Yeah, I don't think he should watch the content nuke, for all the reasons that Vadim said. But also I just think like it's like almost a 2 hour long video, and it's mostly out of context clips. Like infamously, like that one where Ethan was like, "Oh, look at these benign dudes in the background. Like they look like they're doing charity."
Okay.
And it turns out they were destroying aid from Gaza. Like that's that entire video. Like I watched other creators react to it. I watch a lot of Hasan, so I could recognize where those clips came from, except for some of like the really old ones, and they were all taken out of context. And so there, it really is again like nothing for Hasan to gain there. It's also just like a waste of his time. It's a nearly 2 hour long video by a guy who mistakenly called Yoav Gallant a good guy because he just didn't really know who he was, which goes to show that he's really not like, why is he trying to like, why should Hasan take him seriously pretty much? So
They were
and
friends.
why should, and I also
Because
think
they were
it
friends.
also clearly really upsets Ethan that he's not watching the video. And I think that is what you have to do with these people sometimes. You just have to not react to their content. And I think that it's ultimately for the best, because it would be really annoying if Hasan's stream just turned into 6 hours of him responding to drama every day. You know?
Can I give a devil's advocate?
Go for it.
I think he should respond to it on stream because first of all, it's content. It's easy content, easy dunking for Hasan. He knows the talking points. He's been addressing it the whole time. Easy content. Dub. His fans would love it. Secondly, I think doing this would show and take away from everyone doing the card of, oh, he's cowardly because he knows the content nuke has substance to it. The content nuke, he can't disprove it. He can't. Nobody can make that argument after he addresses it. And everything's going to be taken out of context anyway. His content is always taken out of context. I think the best way to address this kind of video is to go point by point by point by point. And then, like, if he really wants to, I would highly recommend, honestly, because Ethan doesn't seem to have a stopping point. Just pretty much completely disregard Ethan, ban his name in the chat, don't address him anymore after like the content nuke. Either that or like a 1v1 right after or whatever like that. I think it does a disservice, unfortunately, that he won't address it on stream, because it gives Ethan this like out of being like, oh, well, I won't actually address you because you won't address my video and my criticisms of you. I think it gives no excuses at all, point blank period. These people hide behind excuses. So, yeah.
Okay. I want to do one more topic, and this is just going to be like the concluding topic. Do you think there's any hope for reconciliation and any like changing of Ethan, and maybe for the people that are critical of Hasan? Do you think there's any kind of push that you can give Hasan to make him change his content? What would you want that change to be? Swood, why don't you start off?
All right, I hope that this marks a return of old Ethan. I hope, because Ethan's gone through like a career metamorphosis many times. Like whenever he's like started having Trisha Pages on his show, they literally did a complete audience switch over. His audience went from like chud middle schoolers to like T channel girls, and it stayed that way up until the Hasan debacle, in which it kind of devolved into a more like politically staggered and comedy brain rot people who are just in it for the shit flinging.
You're describing yourself.
Yeah, I know. That's how I know.
Yeah, we're fans.
I'm well aware.
Okay, so Swood and Sid are just here for the drama, and they're happy with it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, no, well, that's
no,
yeah, because that's
super
how
into
I am,
politics as well.
Me too, but like I was working as like, actually I won't get into that, but I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But no, I hope Ethan kind of has a return to form and shies away from this politics stuff once this, because this, in my head, all this shit he said over the past few months has been a response to the people calling him a genocidal freak. And even though you may have receipts people were calling him a genocidal freak before he said all this shit. All the
Mhm.
fucked up shit he said about Yusuf Galant and all that, he was saying trying to cover for his ass like a bumbling moron because he doesn't know shit about foreign affairs like most Americans.
Okay, Sid,
And it
why don't
sucks,
you
but that's what happened.
say your piece, and then we'll go to Monique.
Well, hold on. Let me do. I hope for Hasan's career. I don't hate Hasan. I really like. Y'all see that new "I Did a Thing" video? I think he should set himself on fire more. I think he should do more of that.
What's the specific topic right now? A little bit ADHD.
Just where do you hope that these two guys go? Do you think there's any kind of reconciliation? What are steps forward to make you forgive them personally, or like communities forgive them?
I think, I mean, it would be nice if there was just, I feel like, a little bit more responsibility in both communities. I think if Hasan would have said, hey, I'm going to keep a closer eye on my moderators, ban a couple keywords that get rid of the Ethan hate, I think this would have never happened. Is there any reconciliation going to happen? Probably not. If there's an overhaul of, like, if Twitch ever has to crack down on their terms of service for anything, and Hasan could be kept on a shorter leash just as far as, like, exposing young people to specifically the terrorist content. If he wants to make communists and socialists, I think the socialist element is a good voice to be heard in this country. So reconciliation, probably not.
Okay, Monique, do you have any thoughts?
I feel like probably no reconciliation, but I mean, hopefully. And then I just hope I know Sweden said like the shit slinging, but I do feel like Ethan is not in like a not to be parasocial. He just looks like he's having a shit time, mental health wise. So, if he can go to, goofs, gaffs, and shit slinging without having like a breakdown, that'd be pretty cool for him. And then for Hasan, just stay out of the shit as much as possible. Because there are not a lot of leftist voices on Twitch just in general. So yeah.
Okay, Emery, what do you think? And these are going to double as closing statements just because we've been on this for a while and I want to let you guys go.
I don't think they're repairing this. At least not anytime soon. Probably not in the next 5 years, even if that. Yeah, it's just Ethan's done too much at this point. Hasan has showed incredible restraint. Because it could have been the opposite, where Hasan could have been like Destiny, where Destiny retaliates. Hasan kind of thought to himself, you know what? I don't think he's an enemy. I think he's just having a hard time with this. I think he's he's trying to back off a little bit. But at a certain point, you have to respond. At a certain point, you have to address this consistent wave of attacks. So like it's affected Hasan in a severe way as well. I don't think like Ethan trying to get him banned from the platform is something that Hasan's gonna take too kindly. Yeah. Like Israel and Palestine, these two cannot seem to get along, and won't anytime soon. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go Diego and then Vadim.
So no reconciliation. I don't think that's going to happen. I personally do not care about the online stuff. If Ethan chooses his own way, you know, whatever whatever he wants to do, that's okay. And as for Hasan, well, it's also his, how he chooses to deal with this stuff. So, I'm just here to talk about, my perspective on the foreign policy perspective.
Yep. And Vadim, you want to wrap this up? We might have lost Vadim.
I do have one last point. I don't know if you guys have considered this though.
Okay, go for
it. Hasan Piker wears non-prescription glasses.
Okay, I think that's the checkmate point right there.
Yeah. So debate 1.
Get wrecked.
Got him.
You won there.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for showing up. This was like a long time in the making, and honestly, this went better than I was expecting it to. There was like some crazy moments, but I think overall, like everyone was pretty chill and got their thoughts out there.
Yeah, it was fun being here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
and
thanks. I'll be posting this later, so keep in touch, and maybe we'll do this again if people are interested in it. But for now, just once again, thanks everyone. It was about a little bit over 2 hours of your night, so I appreciate it, and thanks for sticking in there so much. All right,
have a good one.
Have
Great.
a good,
Thanks
have
for
a
having
good
me.
evening.
Sorry if I'm a bit much, y'all, but I had fun.
No, it's fun.